Pros and cons, pros and cons. The world better tell what is really wrong. What's cracking, guys? It's me. And I got my buddy Beard Boy over here.
What's up, everybody?
Beard Dude, whatever you want to call him.
Turn this volume
Got
down.
the volume on.
The hat's looking fresh.
My hat? Oh, thanks. Jeez, you wasted no time. Wasted no time to tell me that. I got this hat because a lot of neighborhoods have been rioting. People breaking into businesses and other places. And this is just a warning that if you come on my block, I will bust your ass. Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. Let him stream on in.
Nice. Nice.
We're gonna let you guys hop in here. It's the end of the weekend, but I guess with all this COVID stuff and people aren't allowed to work, I mean, more so today they are, but for a long time, it's felt like a weekend. So there was, I started forgetting what day it was. Today Wednesday? Oh, Sunday. You know what I'm saying? But that French press coffee, a tip someone told me that I sometimes follow. You pour the coffee in. You pour just enough water in first. Let it make a little mud pie at the bottom. Let that sit for 3 minutes, right? And then pour up the water all the way up after that. Let that sit for 3 to 5 minutes. And then push it down, and you can't push it down slow enough. And then you'll have yourself the best damn French press you ever had. So, anything on your mind?
I thought it was I was checking some news earlier,
Oh yeah?
and
Let me get some news music.
yeah, what's the news?
Oh, I don't have. This just in. Would you check on the news?
They're so Elmer Fudd has
Did you Wesley Wabbit?
yeah, because of the woke gun lobby, they now are going to basically scratch that cartoon.
Are you serious?
Because he carries a gun.
That's so stupid. They're just getting rid of all the good cartoons. You know, cartoons like that were the ones that actually had morals and suggested things. You know, like, well, I don't get what's wrong with guns. Guns is to protect yourself, not to commit crimes. Tell that to these rioters and looters who are stealing the guns from the police.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
They want to get rid of Elmer Fudd.
They just want to destroy everything.
Like, other violence is okay, but apparently cartoon guns. This is nuts.
But they want to put LGBT and sexual stuff into cartoons.
Yeah, and then
that's okay.
Part
it's
of
not guns.
my brother's a teacher at a charter school, and I don't know if it's hit his program yet, but I know the public schools. I saw some of the programs they want. They want kids as young as basically kindergarten age to be taught about sex, pleasure that relates to sex, sexual pleasure. Basically teaching kids in elementary school. I don't care if it's first grade, second grade, up to 6th, about anal intercourse, all this stuff. Like, it's just like, what the hell's going on with the world?
Yeah, and then ban cartoons with Elmer Fudd in it because he has a gun, because he hunts.
And if you say that that's wrong, and it's not coming from a hateful place, but if you say that that's wrong, people will say you're transphobic, you're homophobic. It's like, it's not a fear of it.
Yeah, no, I don't like sexualizing children.
Right.
Do whatever you want to do in your life as an adult, but don't promote it to children and put it in schools and in cartoons and then complain about Elmer Fudd having a gun.
Yeah. We got Raymond, J.O.G.
What's up, Ray?
And Gaucho/Danny. Danny, he's a family guy now. He's got one baby, and I think he's got a second one on the way. He knocked her up again like a real man.
Nice.
You don't give that belly a break. You just keep pumping it full of babies. But Danny, have you heard? Elmer Fudd is now gone because of guns.
That's stupid. Good thing my sister and my family always stocked up on those old school cartoon DVDs.
Yeah, those are gonna be not even a classic, because they're gonna be banned probably. But if you have them, you know, like what would you raise your kids on now? Like there's so much sexualization. They got transgender.
SpongeBob is old now. And now they got new cartoons that are just like.
They want you to be okay with a guy in a dress and makeup, twerking for your kid, and reading them books at the library. And it's crazy that people will stand by and let this happen. And they call you hateful if you say that it's wrong and it shouldn't be there. It's amazing. Like, I don't know if you've seen that video of that black transgender guy who was literally twerking and doing a striptease in front of a kid. They put the kid like it was a stripper. They put the kid in a chair, like he was someone at a strip club.
But you know what? I didn't see anyone post about it in a way that was promoting it. I only saw people posting against it. So where do these people come from? Are they like plants to demoralize and corrupt society? Because I don't see people, you know, like saying, hey, we want this. Of course, there's the people that are there that are supporting it, the parents, the weak ass fathers, and the males that are in there that are sick watching this happen. I would speak up. If I were there, I'd be like, put some clothes on, get the hell up out of here.
Yeah, it's no place.
Why are you traumatizing your kids like that and sexualizing them?
Our buddy Isaiah Stewart, super talented artist, Native American fellow, feather, not dot, great bass brother. He's out of Kansas, and he was telling us the last time he called in that they tried doing that tranny reading hour by him, and him and the rest of the city basically made a fuss and called the hell out of that library until they canceled it. But that's what has to happen. Like if you don't see it happening, it's too late. You know, like they are slowly deteriorating this country, and the difference between someone personally living that and wants to wear a dress in their own apartment is one thing, but putting it onto a TV screen as if 50% of the majority of the country is into that, that's where the illusion happens. It's not.
It's the normalization of it to make kids grow up with this reality that there's no such thing as no difference between a man and a woman. That they're trying to destroy God's order in life, the natural, what's in nature. If people were born and weren't taught stuff, right, educated as they say, because they want to trick you and tell you that you need to be educated, and they're really indoctrinating you. Like if you were born in the forest, like nature would play its course, you know. People would protect themselves. People would be attracted to who they're attracted to, and it would most likely be men and women because they're not going to be traumatized by the world yet because they live in a forest. I honestly think that people who are confused about their identity and everything like that are really angry as children and suppressed it, and they weren't able to overcome it, and they just stuffed it away and seek the world to help them feel better for the moment, you know, and so they started building their new identity on top of that, and the real them is somewhere stuffed inside.
If you can demoralize somebody and destroy their identity, they will long for something, because we all want to exist. We have a need to know ourselves. But if it's been beaten out of you before you were too young to realize it, then the world will fill that identity for you. That's what they're doing for these people. Danny had a great point about Apu on The Simpsons. They got rid of him.
I know, man. They got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. They got rid of Speedy Gonzalez because they said that it was portraying Mexicans as drunks and it was disrespectful. I'm like, dude, when I watched that as a kid, I never thought of it.
Yeah, you don't think about Mexicans. I was just thinking about it as a funny. It's a
yeah,
little mouse.
Of course, I thought of Mexican because it was like with the hat and the sombrero, but I appreciated it. I just thought it was a funny cartoon.
That's it.
I didn't think of it as when I saw other Mexicans that.
Yeah, like they're all drunk mice.
No, like that comes from an insecure place, where people are like, they all think of one thing happens to one person or one person is in this light, and then they identify with them because of their race or culture. You know, like the George Floyd thing. Something happens to them and to a guy, right? Two men, and George Floyd is black, and then everybody identifies with his blackness and is like, oh, that's gonna happen to me. That could happen to me. He's me. And it's the same thing with that Speedy Gonzalez type of stuff, you know?
Primal Bear says, "Hey Trevor, the '70s called. They want their outfit back."
The '70s? Well, shit.
That would be more like
if you could go back to the '70s, you'd go back.
That's like That's like the late '80s, '90s though. That Blockbuster.
Yeah, I didn't know. '70s is like bell bottoms.
Yeah, '70s was definitely was disco. bell bottoms.
Yeah, tell that to Jack Tripper.
Yeah. But yeah, Danny says Apu did it right. The one immigrant who became an American citizen, had a business, 8 kids, and was moral. It's true. He was like one of the most moral characters on the show. Had a value system.
Why weren't the Indian people outraged and said,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Who needs the quickie mart?
we're the one of the greatest characters on The Simpsons. We're the only Indian there, and you want us off of there, or we're the Indians that complained and said that, oh, we don't like being." It was probably white liberals who were like, "Oh, you shouldn't talk
For
about
sure.
Indians like that." It's always going to be the white liberal saviors that want to come in and save the day for everyone.
And I bet you they don't, because at this point, people just don't understand how communism and demoralization works. They don't. Most people don't understand that the media can create a trend that people think is organic. They can give them an opinion. So the media can, it's basically like a false flag in a sense. They can create a fuss, a false fuss, have some actor go and pretend they're outraged, and then that will be contagious, and all the other people who are angry and live off emotion will be like, yeah, I'm outraged too. That totally makes sense. And that's how they get you. Is if you keep living off emotion, that's all they got to do. Every story they're going to put out there, it's going to be some degenerate, immoral person, and they just throw some emotion into the mix, make you feel bad, make you feel sad, and now you're out there defending, a criminal, or you're defending a junkie, or some not respectable person.
Yeah, empathy seems like such a popular thing that people, they all want to do virtual signaling and act like, they're good. I'm a good person. And shame people for all the wrong things. And, if you don't feel something inside yourself when you see something that isn't right, or what you think is right, if you see a homeless person or whatever in the world, all of a sudden you have to feel something. And the whole idea of it is put yourself in someone else's shoes. And if you think about what it means to put yourself in someone else's shoes, that means to lose yourself and put be someone else. And that's the problem, is the trickery, is that we don't need to put ourselves in other people's shoes. We need to stay in our shoes and not be so movable and malleable to the world, trying to move us around and tell us how we're supposed to be. If you don't post a black square Instagram, you're racist.
Yeah, if you don't talk crap about white people, you're racist.
Yeah, if you don't hate white people, you're racist.
Yeah.
If you speak up and talk about black on black crime, you're racist.
Right.
It's like if you tell the truth, you're the devil.
Right. It's amazing what's happening right now. This entire protest, it's not even a protest. It's the looting and destruction of America. They're out there tagging up our monuments and memorials, our history, and they're putting the graffiti all over that.
All because of how they feel about it. And
Right.
and the reality is history just is. It happened. And you look at it and it's like people you see a skull and you see death. You can see that and be like, oh, that means death. Get rid of it. It only means that because you made it mean that. But just like any statue or whatever, it represents something that happened in history.
If
Why
you
do you
feel
wanna-
something about it, that's your problem.
Yeah, that's your problem. Why do you have to feel an attachment towards history of something that happened a long time ago, instead of just recognizing, wow, history just is. When I went to Ireland and I visited Ireland, I have Irish descent, but I don't attach myself to those people at all. But when I went and I looked and I saw the chambers that people were tortured in, and all kinds of castles and stuff like that. I remember somebody asked me like, is it weird that you're Irish? Like, do you just feel weird to know that this was your? And I was like, what? I was like, I don't even think about that at all. Like, not at all.
Yeah, it's if you haven't watched it yet and you have any doubts about what's happening and how to understand it, go watch the video from ex-KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov.
U-R-I-E?
Yeah, Y-U-R-I.
Benzmenov?
Yuri Bezmenov, Bezmenov. Just put Yuri KGB agent. He explains how it works, and that how you go back the 1960s, all that hippie crap, the stuff that my dad's generation was into. Your dad would have been the same age. All my aunts, all that hippie nonsense, that Woodstock crap, all that was degeneracy. Them having free love and having sex with all kinds of people and doing all kinds of drugs, that was not about freedom. That was them getting brainwashed, and that was a setup for them to ruin their kids. And guess what? They succeeded. The next generation got screwed up, and then that generation raises more screwed up kids, and they normalize all this nonsense. You know, they turned against their own people. Like, instead of hating your American soldiers, why don't you go after the bankers and the politicians who lied about things to get them into illegal wars? Don't hate your soldiers. They're following orders. You know, go find out who gave the orders.
Speaking of angry hippies, we were driving today. I won't say where because I don't want to get my block busted. And I noticed, well, we noticed that the looters that were, or not looters, but the people with the signs that were there were all like kind of dirty hippie looking people. And one of the signs said, what did it say? I am an ally. What did you do?
Oh yeah. How are you an ally today?
How are you an ally today? It's like all these moms running around trying to impose on everybody how you should be, what you should do, and it's just insane. Like so she's saving the world by holding up a sign asking people how they were allies today. How are you an ally today? By holding up a sign that asks people how they were allies today? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, and they all look like just disheveled homeless moms.
Yeah, like men hating. And then you see NBC News rolling up on the side. You know that they were trying to probably get a shot of 5 people that were there.
Yeah.
And trying to make it look like a whole block.
All the white liberal kids are out there, like all the boys are so feminine. You see Big Mama walking in front of them, leading the charge. Their hair looks all ridiculous, all kinds of colors. You know, the girls are wearing no bra with their saggy boobs down to their belly buttons. It just looks nuts.
It doesn't look good.
You know, it just tells you they have no character. They don't. Half these kids are probably not even working. They're not even taxpayers.
And people are so sensitive nowadays. They let words have so much power over them. It's like a spell that's casted over them. That if someone, one of these people happened to tune into this, they'd hear it and just be triggered and be like, you guys are hateful, you have hate speech, or whatever it is. And
right.
It just blows my mind how much power people allow words to have. And the semantics they get in over words, they're so intellectual that they can't see the point that's being made.
They don't want to hear the point.
They have to nitpick all these little words and their meanings and be like, well, that means this, and you can't really just like. I hear people when they speak. I listen, and if they make sense, they make sense. I'm not gonna try to like sabotage what they're saying and try to act like I'm confused and that I misunderstand it based off of little words that they use and try to like say, well, no, actually that doesn't mean this, that means that. When it's the same thing. Like there's plenty of synonyms out there that mean the same thing.
Right. It's a very common thing. Like I was talking to him today about it, how people, like we had church today. I'm not gonna say who, but it brought up a topic talking about media and finance and politics and the overwhelming influence that a very small demographic, very small demographic of people have, an ethnicity of people.
Yeah.
We call them the small hats.
Yeah.
And is it a big deal? Nothing's a big deal. But
Yeah.
to make that observation, some people hear you hating them as opposed to hearing your observation about what's really happening.
People put words in your mouth and fill in the blanks and straw man you. And straw manning is taking somebody and
attack the character.
assuming like putting them in an assumption of character of like if I said that David Floyd or George Floyd was a thug because he had a criminal record and he was in porn and he was obviously committing crimes when whatever. If you say he was a thug, people automatically say, well, he doesn't deserve to die. You're saying that he deserved to die. I never said he deserved to die. I said he was a thug.
Yeah, it's like where do you get that out of that?
Why is that intermingled with it? Like he was.
Right. It's kind of with the Ahmaud Arbery case. My stance was he would still be alive if he didn't, attack that guy, rush across the front of the truck, and fight for the gun. If he would have just stood there and waited, does that mean that he deserved to die? No. And saying that he reaped what he sows is not saying he deserves it. It just means that when you make one bad move after another, it leads to bad consequences. But people, again, they're committed, like Trevor says, good phrase, committed to misunderstanding. So at this point, the way I look at it is it does no good to sit there and have to do a disclaimer before you say something. Either they're going to hear what you're saying or they're not.
Yeah, I mean, people these days have to make a disclaimer before they say anything because they don't want to offend anybody. They're so afraid that they're going to get canceled by cancel culture, that someone's going to call them racist, someone's going to say that they're this or that, and so they have to defend themselves before they even say anything. And I think that just shows weakness and sets you up for them to do that because people see it subconsciously, even the low IQ ones that just want to be hateful and follow all this dumb stuff.
Yeah, like Trevor had a great post today about with the how there are plenty of black. It was actually a black man who tweeted or posted on his.
Yeah, I
IG.
reposted a black dude because I follow not woke black dudes, but awake black dudes.
Yeah, and he was saying like basically like I've never been oppressed in my life. I have a job, a car, a house. I earn it.
I can pee and
work.
poop.
I can pee, poop, and eat like the rest of you. I have zero oppression in my life. And they don't want to give those guys any voice, or they don't put them on the air.
And they're actually called coons, Uncle Toms. They say that you hate yourself. They're going to be racist and angry towards them because they think for themselves as individuals, and they don't follow the herd.
Right.
And I noticed that with black people, and it's sad that the black people that think and deviate from the group, they're called names or outcasted. Like because I grew up hanging out with black people a lot, and I still hang out with black people. I hang out with all people that don't have anger, and I never cut anybody off in my life. People cut me off because I started to see what was happening, and when I started speaking up about it, it was misconstrued and turned around on me, and I was misunderstood by the people who are the children of the lie, who are committed to misunderstanding. And it sucks to see, like, I know that if that happens to me, that happens to black people too. And it doesn't matter if you're, because I know black people do tend to be more tribal with their community, because they stick together, and it's like, oh, if I don't know you and you're black, you're my brother, right?
It's actually a messed up sense of tribalism, because it's only tribal when it benefits them, or when they can get to play victim. Because obviously they're not tribal if a person like Jesse Lee or the guy he reposted, if they speak out, or like Larry Elder, they're out of the tribe. They just talk crap about him. So it's really
like Candace Owens, she's attacked all the time.
Yeah, it's a really messed up sense of tribe. And I think the best way is that if you get emotional, if you get angry at somebody for having an observation that is different from yours, you are evil. It's coming from you. Because you should feel nothing, absolutely nothing. There should be nothing stirring in here. I don't care how extreme the viewpoint is. And that's why I go hard, because it's one way I can weed out the weak. Because they're gonna misunderstand you anyway. So if I'm just blunt and it sounds what they say, that sounds racist, that sounds anti-Semitic, then go ahead and check out, because obviously you are not here for a conversation. We can talk. Let's ask questions before you misunderstand what I'm saying.
Yeah, speaking of talking and asking questions, if you want to call in, it's 818-308-5559, which is brought to you by a song by Juicy Smollett. This is MAGA country, where everybody's racist, yeah. This is MAGA country, everybody's racist, This is MAGA country, where everybody's racist, yeah. This is MAGA country, where everybody's racist, yeah.
Amazing. 50 to 60 days, depending on which ones you grow, but they are very sweet because of the frost they went through.
Who's that?
Matt's talking about his spinach. He had
What's up, Matt?
a little harvest. Yeah, Matt's a
I
good
think
example.
talking about these people.
Yeah, Matt's a good example of he's shared with us that he woke up later in life, but he's got a family, he's got land, he's working that land, he's making that land produce for him and his kids. He leads by example.
It's so much, and I took that on more late in my life too, and I'm still growing in it. But there's something so much better and fulfilling about, especially being a man, about taking ownership of your life. Not blaming anybody, realizing that you can have the power instead of expecting your surroundings and your environment to change for you. It's because the weak people, they don't want to look at themselves, they don't want to change themselves, so they have to change their environment to fit for them.
Even if somebody is a hateful person and tries to roadblock you, you are a weak man if you let that stop you, and you're dead in your tracks. You move around them. You overcome it. You don't sit there and complain and say, this guy just ruined my life.
And the beauty of it is when you develop this discernment, you can recognize right away these people with anger and that are committed to misunderstanding. And it's God's eye to be able to see it and discern what people are in your life, and that defines your path. You move around in the world, and you get to see it. You don't feel anything about it. You don't hate them. You just recognize it, and you over time you gather your people, who are not your people because of your ethnicity or your race, but because of their heart, because of what they stand for, because they love what's right more than anything else. And those types of people, all of a sudden, you find yourself in situations, because being in the music industry, I didn't have that discernment, and I got screwed over all the time, and I went crazy because people had something to say about me, and I considered that maybe they were right, and I questioned myself, and so I had this probably identity issue too that I didn't really realize I had, because I wore my heart on my sleeve. And I still wear my heart on my sleeve. It's just not able. It's just a steel heart. It's not the kind that's all soft and able to
mushy.
be able to be ruined. It's that no, this is me. This is who I am, and I'm gonna stand up and be that. And I love what's right.
Yeah, like Matt says, you have to find you. Like, ever since waking up and meeting Jesse, I was always like rambunctious. I was a kid who was not scared of making jokes, laughing at everything. Back in the 80s, you would make fun of everybody. You make fun of your brown friend, your black friend. They make fun of you back.
10 years ago, I would hang out with my black buddies, and they would ask me to tell racist jokes.
Yeah, you would
come
to
to
school.
Say that one, that we'd be laughing and making racist jokes about everyone. And now a lot of those same people are angry. They've been seduced by the world and the media, and they feel like victims. And it's really sad, man, because it's like you become what you resent. And so if you start festering about what other people are saying, doing, and questioning their intentions, all of a sudden that spirit gets in you, and then you become angry, and it becomes just like whoever or whatever it is that you hate and resent. Like, a lot of blacks these days are resentful of the KKK and white supremacy, right? Which I don't understand.
And they've never had a KKK in their life do anything to them.
But then they are now becoming hateful and resentful towards whites, asking white people to kiss their feet,
wash their feet now.
Wash their feet.
Just saw that today.
Bow down to them, like they're acting like racists. Even though I don't think racism exists, I think that it's either good or evil, right or wrong, love or hate.
That's a word to dress it up and come up with excuses.
Yeah,
it's just good and evil.
It's a spell word that gets people caught up in that intellectual, thought process of things, and like, oh, it's not evil, it's racism.
Yeah, because it's something that you can't deal with. When you call it racism, it's just like someone said at church, it becomes an invisible boogeyman that will just always exist.
Exactly.
And that's the
systemic
problem.
Systemic racism.
Yeah, it's all a lie. There's no systemic racism, because you know why? Name me one law that lessens and limits black people's rights, or any person of color.
Oh, lessens or limits. There's actually
zero
laws that are promoting that if you are black, of color, or a woman, that you can get a job, you can get into school. It
right.
Actually
There's preferential treatment.
There is, and even the Asians, they have to score higher than the whites, higher than the browns and blacks and everyone else. The Asians have to, and then the white people have to, score underneath them. And then, it's like this weird, it's weird. And then the blacks are like, well, they're like, oh, you're black, you could just get into the school, you're oppressed. And I'm proud of the black people I see, that, like that guy I retweeted, who are like, you know what, I'm not a victim, I'm not, being black does not define me. It has nothing to do with who I am inside and the character I have and to make my own life.
Right.
Especially when these people are very successful, they have a home, they have a family. They have, like, I know people like this. They drive, like, nice cars, like Land Rovers.
They're well-established
Range Rovers.
artists and musicians, and here they are crying.
Producers, and they're being like, I could be next. And how could you be next if you're not committing crimes?
Right, that logic that, oh, that could be me. Well, you know what? That's a bald-faced lie, because it can't be you unless you're out there doing crime.
Exactly. When I see a white guy getting police, extra force on police or whatever, I never think that could be me, because I would act different than that person.
Matt.
Let me tell him.
What's up, Matt? You're on the air.
This is Matthew Contra.
What's up, brother?
Not much. Sitting on the porch.
I'm digging that maple syrup, my bro.
Oh, God, man. Such good maple syrup.
If you didn't know, Matt made some homemade maple syrup, and he sent me some, and it's delicious.
Yes, Matt, really quick for everyone in the chat again, how can they find you if they want to purchase some of this fine maple syrup you make?
Oh, well, to be honest with you, I have like 5 jars left. So they'll have to wait till next year.
Nice. And it'll be Matthew's main
that one, Black Toria? Crunchy.
Yeah, it kind of took off. We're kind of having to move into now it's the broccoli and the spinach and a few other things should start up real quick.
Is it because the trees
We got
don't?
all that wood.
Do the trees not put out the syrup this time of year?
Seasonal?
Oh no. The sap, no. You can only get that in December, January, February, March.
Oh, okay.
So it'll just be Matt's
It's that
organic
fresh, bro.
essential goodies.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the tree. It has to go through the seasons, and then when it hits the winter, it'll freeze it. It'll create a vacuum in the tree, so it sucks everything out of the tree back into the roots. The next day, after a night's freeze, it gets above freezing. Sun pops up. It hits that. It sucks that all right back up into the tree with the heat, and that's when you tap. As soon as your trees bud, the sap turns white, and it's no good. You're done.
You ever? I feel like you would be interested, or maybe I'm just assuming. You ever made like beer?
No, beer. I was thinking about beer. I've got a 20-gallon copper still coming.
I feel like everybody and their mama
beer.
would make beer. It's like cliche. Like maple syrup is unique, you know.
Right. Well, the beer, you have to be. I mean, you have to be sterile, right? So it's like, well, I'm gonna have to do this. It's gonna be a clean room, which is no big deal. It's just, it's a
More
process.
work.
You can make whiskey, and it's, it's not a process. I mean, like beer, wine is easier to make. Beer, no, I really haven't messed with it. If I'm gonna drink, it'll be some scotch.
I second that, my bro.
Matt, what is it? I know you said you had moonshine. What does that taste like?
Well, the one the neighbor just gave me last summer, which it should be about time for another run, is apple pie. It tasted like apple pie.
Is it like really,
I don't
really
know.
strong?
Have you ever? Well, no. Yes. I mean, if you drink half a quart, you're gonna walk funny for a minute. But it's easy to drink, but if it's apple pie, it just tastes like warm apple pie.
That's amazing.
And apples. So it kind of kills the burn. There's really not burn. Have you ever had a really good scotch, like a 12 or 15 year old scotch?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, then you know how the moonshine goes down the slate.
Okay, well that I can dig. Because always in the movies they make it seem like it's just straight burns.
I mean, you're
well,
supposed to
yeah.
sip it. Oh, moonshine, right?
Yeah, moonshine does. Have you ever just done a shot of Everclear?
Yeah, that was raw.
If it's anything like vodka, I'm not a vodka fan.
It burns worse than that.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you take that moonshine right off the still and you do it, you might as well just drink some fire.
You take that moonshine right down.
Right.
Oh
When I
man.
think of moonshine, I think of those guys with the hats that are like with the trees. You know, in
Yeah.
the forest are like, oh, okay, check out this moonshine.
Oh, hot damn!
What's on your mind, bro?
Overall, though.
What you think about these days?
Yeah. What do you think? You saw that? You saw those white people washing those feet?
No, I really. They had a Antifa here in the town I'm closest to,
Pantifa.
and they hit Bedford. Yeah, Antifa, BLM, scheduling. Our sheriff, I guess the guy that set it up went and talked to our sheriff, and sheriff told him, "You guys break anything, these guys are gonna. We have a stand your ground law in this state. Now, Indianapolis might not play by it, it's Bloomington and a few other cities, but the county I'm in, no, you stand your ground. You break one of them shop owners' windows, and they put a round in you. Sorry about your luck." So they were well behaved. The veteran, I know they defaced the Veterans Memorial in Bedford and Bloomington. Protester got shot and killed in Bloomington last night.
Wow.
And then, so me and my friend were getting, he drove up to town because it started at 11, right before, hey, come on at noon here. And I'm like, man, I'm not going unless it's like we got to. So he drives uptown and looks, and the veterans, they already had them surrounded. That there was no one getting close to that memorial, not without bleeding. So ours didn't get touched. Who knows what's going to happen tonight?
It's terrible what's happening.
Well, there was at one point in time before this all started, before they crashed the economy, I was talking to Haig, and I told him they were going to crash it somehow. I didn't see no virus, but I told him I think that there was enough patriots in the country, enough men that would come out and woodwork and this wouldn't happen. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy because
I think it's,
there's so
the
many.
whites are the ones.
Go for it.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that it's like you said. It's shocking how many people. And again, I'm not in Middle America. Obviously, Idaho. We saw the footage. There's way more patriots out there. But it's amazing how many people in the state of California, not just in the middle of the city, but just across, that they don't agree with it. But they're so weak that they'll just sit there and let it happen.
Oh yeah, they'll watch it. I mean, it's like, you know, you watch the news, and the news tries to get the videos to where they show more black people out there doing it, but really, if you pay attention, like here, there's more whites. There's more white women. Not necessarily even the angry lesbians, but white, middle-class women that are married with children, and they're up here on the square, they're doing this stuff up here.
Yeah.
You know, screaming, being loud, and it's like, okay, wow, okay. Well, you know, like I've said in the chats before, it's like, I don't live in the world you guys live in. I really don't. Nothing's really changed here, other than we've been extra busy this year. I mean, between everything that we got going on. So, I see it on the news. I seen Nick when he was live streaming in LA, which was pretty cool. You know, that was pretty cool. And, you know, I don't have that. I don't see it. We drive to town, we don't see that. We go to Kroger, or to whatever Rural King or wherever you're going, there's not lines, there's not. Town's just busy. Everybody's off collecting unemployment, so the lakes are busy down here. So it's like, it's hard for me to get worried. I'm not really worried at all. But I mean, I understand what's going on in LA. I mean, it's on fire. You know, the politicians just lay down. Minneapolis. I mean, I don't know. It feels surreal to me.
It's crazy how many they have demoralized even our law enforcement. You got these guys laying down. I saw a cop laying on his belly with his hands behind his back, like mimicking a suspect. You got other cops taking a knee, dancing in the street. Like,
you know, it used to be, man, like they would show you in movies and moral of the story type of things. When kids went to school and they got bullied, the parents would tell them, you know, they're going to keep bullying you if you keep crying and you keep being weak. And as soon as you stand up to them for yourself, then they'll stop. Like, that used to be the thing. It was common sense to know that weakness is only going to attract more. And that's exactly what they're doing with these cops kneeling and everybody. They think that they're, like, going to win over the hearts of people. And no.
I'll tell you this about Americans. Americans don't take a knee for nothing. I mean,
hell yeah.
Jesus Christ himself. Unless it's Jesus Christ himself or the Father, you're gonna have to put me on my knees, and then good luck. Good luck.
Actually, George Floyd did porn, so.
Do what now?
George Floyd and that cop, I think, both did porn. So I think they were forced on their knees
I
at
don't
some
know
point.
about that cop. He sure does look like that cash cab guy.
yeah.
I mean, all the videos I've seen on it, it's like, man, that just smells fishy, like a red herring.
It's also trippy because that makes more sense because that dude in a mugshot that they put all over the news, which is not the same guy, and no one's questioning that. Like, it's not the same person.
That ear line, like you see that picture of the ear, and
the
it shows
hairline.
the pictures. They're totally different structures of face.
Yeah, so that guy, it does seem like an act.
Well, the thing is, people forget that whole video scene, all those people could just be a figment of a computer's program. It could all be CGI. You'd never be able to tell. Yeah, I'll make my point real quick on that one with the CGI. So you remember how the Pentagon's been releasing these Tic Tac videos where these F-18 Hornets are chasing these Tic Tac UFOs?
Right.
You know, the video that you always see is grainy and black and white. It's actually a negative. And the reason why they do that is because, do you really believe that they're using World War II nose camera footage and equipment to film? I mean, come on, we got 4K televisions now. Where do you think the military's at?
Right, exactly.
And I was telling Trevor.
You guys are all screaming, communism, the commies are coming. Okay, here, check this out. If you know anything about history, you know that it repeats itself, but what comes out of the ashes is never what was burned out before, no matter how many republic in Rome again. It never has. Same with Greece. You know, Greece was a republic, I believe, before Rome. I do believe that's where it comes from. I could be wrong. I don't know. But anyway, and then now you got the United States. Well, it's not coming back. It's not communism. It's coming. The communism and the socialism and all this fun stuff is to keep people thinking that we can change it by voting or change it, you know, on a national level, but you can't. It's got to start local. So we're all in the same boat. It's on fire. It's sinking. What are you going to do about it? You know, I don't think there's really anything to do about it except for endure it and just protect your family.
Yeah, it's like the Terminator 3, I think it was. Like, you know, the other ones, they were just trying to stop it from happening. And then they realized we can't stop it from happening. All we can do is survive it.
Yep.
Right. Well, you know, it's a spiritual battle that it's all. We're spiritual beings driving fleshly automobiles.
Right.
So, I mean, if you don't change the oil, take care of it, you know it's going to break down one sooner or another. But it's a spiritual thing, and I don't, you know, I never seen, you get all caught up with voting and get behind to somebody, and then you turn into a cheerleader, and then you can't see it critically.
Yep. That's what I was.
You know,
That's what I was telling Trevor.
TBS is, yeah.
You become a
I
fangirl.
do not, you're not going to hear me cheerlead for Trump.
Yeah. No, it's
Exactly.
dangerous track.
Because people, too many people these days are doing that. Like they become a novelty and they become the cheerleader, and they're like, you know, wearing their Trump suits and just running around town trying to like get popular and stuff like that. When it's like, I think a lot of these
It's like
people
sports
too
teams.
are rhino Republicans trying to get popular, become into power, and then detonate and turn on you. Because just because they're Republican doesn't mean that they really are, and that their heart is to love what's right and do what's right. You know?
Right. It's become a like a sporting event where it's like Raiders versus Chargers. It's not serious, and people aren't able like to criticize their own.
I don't really mess with the sports no more. It's
Yeah, me neither.
circus and the distraction. But anyway, you know, I'm a big baseball fan. I like baseball. I like the sound of the
Have you seen my baseball?
back cracking, you know. No, I have not.
Have you seen my baseball?
If you like the sound of a back cracking, I wouldn't want to come and loot your house.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, you're not going to hear a back crack if you come in my house. You're not welcome.
You don't want to hear an AR-15, sir.
Maybe a flash? No, you ain't going to get no AR. I don't want to shoot the neighbor. I want to shoot through my walls and through his and through the neighbors. No.
He's a considerate self-defense person. He's-
AR? No. It'd be a
Shotgun.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was like shotguns. Get down!
So Matt,
That one,
you're pretty well versed on guns and things and boomsticks. What would you recommend for? We have like Black Toria who just took her certification, safety cert for firearms. What would you recommend for women to get as a first purchase gun?
Well, I hear a lot of people telling, well, here, you know what, if you want to get comfortable with guns, go out and buy you a 22 rifle. You know, a semi-auto. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you to go buy a Model 60. I prefer the stainless. I've got like 6. So, I mean, you know, the 22, it's an amazing weapon. You can use it for anything. And it's light. It's not loud. You don't have to have earplugs to shoot it. You can just go out there and plink, get used to it. There's no kick. I would suggest get you one of those rifles. They're fairly cheap. You can get one for under $200. But with the pistol, no revolvers. If it's your first gun, if you mess with a revolver, go with the 38 Special. That's really the only revolver.
Yeah, I like revolvers. I know that like Rich has a gun that I use. We fired when we went to Oregon, and his gun, like I had a lot of trouble with it, man. I don't know why I wasn't used to it, but it was like it was the kind of gun where if you hold it up to somebody like this, when it fires, it moves like this.
Yeah,
so
the Springfield.
If someone happened to hold on to it, they can stop you from firing it.
Well, if you put your thumb up there, you're going to lose your thumb. It's going to cut it. I mean, the slide, it comes back. That's what the recoil off the shell pushes your slide back, and it kicks out. The ejector pin will kick out your shell, and when the slide goes forward off the spring, it slams another shell into the chamber, so all you got to do is pull the trigger.
I like a revolver for sure.
Right. Well, the revolver's okay, but you're usually limited to 5 or 6 rounds. And if you're not caring. I mean, me, I'm never without one. Like right now, I'm sitting on my front porch, and I'm staring at one right now, and it's a revolver, and it's always in my pocket. But for them, I told Victoria that she should check out Sig Sauer and P938 or P238, and those two would be perfect. They're not bulky. They're small. They're all metal. They're you can get them. Depending on where you're at, Cali, they may be $1,000 a piece. I don't know what they do out there with their guns.
I think 700 to 900.
Is it a 38 special? Is that Colt?
It's a revolver, right?
Yeah.
Matt?
Is it Colt Python or something?
No, the SIGs aren't Colts. Well, they are. Colt used to make a thing called Mustang, which was a 9mm 1911, just miniaturized. And Colt couldn't get it right. Those things, they're feed ramps that would jam. You couldn't shoot a whole magazine without it jamming or some garbage. So they let the patent go, or SIG bought the patent to them, and SIG perfected them. And then now Kimber makes them. SIG makes them. I think Colt brought them back out, but I wouldn't buy a Colt.
My dad has a Winchester rifle, and that thing is pretty sweet. It's like, it feels like one of those Red Ryder BB guns. It's all small, and the power impact in that thing is like...
Yeah, you posted a video.
Oh yeah, you saw that.
It's a perfect little rifle.
Yeah, the lever actions. I like lever actions. They're pretty amazing.
When the West was wild.
I would go with I told Victoria she probably ought to pick up a SIG, a nice SIG. And they may be a little pricey there, but I'm telling you, if you sell it there, you'll get your money back. You don't have to polish the ramps. It's ready to go. I mean, you don't have to do anything with it. You just load it and go.
And I like revolvers because if someone comes at you and you can pull it back, like you say, all right, mother effer. Oh, safety.
Well, that's true. Like mine.
Get back.
Mine has an internal hammer, so there's no hammer on the outside. It's deburred, which that means there's no corners, no sharp edges, nothing to snag something on your pocket or anything. It goes right in the pocket. No, and it's got 6 rounds, and it's a 357 Magnum. And it pretty much fits in the palm of my hand. But, it will crack your wrist.
And they're good for pistol whipping.
I love revolvers. I think that...
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. But like you're saying there, Trevor, with the revolver, you want to go with the semi-auto. If you're doing home protection, unless you know how to shoot, it's not like you've never shot before or someone's never shot before. You're not going to walk out and pick up a pistol and hit a target. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I don't care how close you are. You may, after 50 rounds, you may be able to group some on the target itself. And if you're natural, if you're going to pick it up real quick, but I'm telling you what.
So you're saying the guys that were in the West shooting each other, pow, 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 like Django. Remember how he was quick with the revolvers?
Yeah.
I guess they were on a whole new level.
A dude that could do that probably shot 50,000 rounds.
Right.
Threw 20 of those guns because he wore the barrel out. I mean, it can be done. Once you get it, it's like anything else. Once you lose that fear, it's there, and then it becomes muscle memory, so it's no problem. I've been shooting guns, I couldn't tell you how long.
A whole lot?
I had my own when I was 11 and 12, so BB guns, pellet guns.
Yeah, I grew up with BB guns and pellet guns, but I didn't go. I went to the gun range a few times because my dad had a gun. And ever since my dad moved to Oregon like 10 years ago, we'd go out there and shoot, but there are people out there. It's just like people who've never gotten in a fight before. They don't know how to throw a punch,
I'd rather talk my way out of it, man. Hitting people hurts. It does. It really does.
I gotta show you something I got on Amazon. Where is it? I ordered this thing right here. I'll come up with the camera so you can see. It goes on your keys. It's a little spike like this.
Well, I'm outside. I don't have my tablet, so I'll have to go back and look at it.
You hold that. Getting punched like that would hurt. That would cause some damage.
Yeah, I generally, if I have to fight, I'm gonna shoot you. Or I might hit you with the pistol or something. I'm probably just gonna shoot you. Yeah, I'm too old for that. I'm not playing that game. But I don't find myself in positions like that, so.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about today at lunch, was with the girls, how just go look at videos and see how quickly you can close the gap, and there's those famous videos where the guy can clear 20 feet with a knife and stab you before you draw. So that's what you don't play.
I mean, I don't care. I've been cut. I've been stabbed. So you go right ahead. You go ahead and cut me. You ain't gonna kill me with that. But trust me, you ain't getting up after that first round.
Yeah, but like for women, it's imperative that they maintain that perfect peace. They get the reflexes down, so that in that moment they don't panic. And because what's more likely to happen than them firing is that they won't fire. They'll be scared because they'll get in their feelings, and then the guy will get the best of them and close the gap.
Well, I mean, true, but then again, it's where you got to position yourself properly. I mean, you can't be in a place where you shouldn't be. I mean, whether you're a white guy up in the hood somewhere, because most police, if you're an out-of-towner and you get off the wrong exit in a city that's got a pretty rough hood or ghetto, those cops will pull you over and escort you out because it's not safe there for you. I mean, I know people, I've had friends try to find when I lived up in Indianapolis, and they'd get, and the cops they'd escort them out of Hallville and up in 10th and Raymond. Yeah.
So Matt, with everything going on and your analysis of where things are, where all we have is the present, but what would your advice be to white folks in these liberal states like me and Trevor out here in California, New York? What would you advise them to seriously consider in the next few months?
Yeah, get out. Get out of California. It's lost. New York's gone. Illinois is gone. I got family in Illinois, and it's in way southern Illinois, and they keep voting the Democrats in, and they're white, and it's like they keep taking all their crap. It's like, no. So, if Indiana goes, man, I'm not going to waste my life trying to change the country. What kind of garbage is that? I'm not going to be living. I'm going to miss out on my kids. I'm going to miss out on everything. Because it's day in, day out, 24/7. You get bought in, and before you know it, your kids are gone. Your wife's left you, took your dog. You don't know, so it's best just not to get involved. I mean, if you just go, I'm not going to go fight for no county. I'm not going to go spill blood. No way. No. I'm going to mold right off into the woods and wait till everybody fights it out. I won't even come out of it. I don't care. No. Now, 10 years ago, I'd been the first one up there. I'd be, oh no, let's go. But it's like, you follow the flag, right? The flag follows the money. So, it's kind of like everything's compartmentalized. You only know so much. You're taught this, you're taught that, so you buy into it. And then before you know it, you spend your whole life chasing after a distraction, and you don't even know who you are. You look around, you're too old to do nothing, and it's like, wow. So you know what? Instead of getting all bought up into it and trying to scream or trying to talk someone into some sense, you cannot talk sense into those folks because they're going to punch you in the face.
Right.
They're not going to listen. It's just orange man bad, or you're white, you're privileged, you're racist. They're bought all up, controlled by words, controlled by their thoughts, their emotions. Lucy's their daddy. And if you go into it, you need to get your own, and you need to live your life. I mean, you can't control anything off your own property. Outside your own four walls, if you're married, God's charged you with your wife and your children's salvation and their covering, so, I'm going to go cast my ballot. I kind of, anymore, it just feels like I'm, there's Coke, there's Pepsi, they share board members, but which one's better? Holy cow. Wait, there's Mr. Orange over there. So, it's not a choice, it's all control. Nothing gets on TV without, it's all garbage. I mean, so if you get all caught up into it, you're going to miss your life. You're not going to live. Jesse used to say in the old services way back when, he'd start out when he had the flowers with an all Baptist still.
Yeah, I remember.
I know Baptist. That's why I was raised. so it was comfortable for me. But he used to ask, so did anybody have a life? I haven't heard him ask that. I don't think in the last several years. I don't think I've heard him ask that in the service.
Ask what again?
But he used to ask it every Sunday. He'd ask, so did anybody have a life? And I swear I didn't see a one that someone said yes. I mean, there was a bunch of them. It was like one of his main things he'd ask. In fact, I don't know. You'd have to ask Eddie. So, and now he doesn't ask it, but it's kind of like, that kind of hit me. I'm like, man, I don't have a life. My life would be cheerleading for Trump, Republicans, but you know what? Republicans were in power for 2 years, and they're still killing babies.
Yep.
You know. And,
What does it mean to you to have a life? You know, that for me, it's like
to have a life?
yeah.
Well, for me now, and even before, it was, well, I guess you could call it the American dream. I just wanted to be left alone. I couldn't stand having someone tell me how to do something, or you got to do it this way, or you should do this, or you should get that. It's like, you know, I left home early. I made my way, and then now I got government telling me what I can't do every time I turn around. Wear a mask, do this, do that. I mean, they, you know, here, I'll tell you this. This is not something that it's a flash in the pan. This has been planned before any of us were born. 200 years ago, this was all in the works, okay? It's called the long game, all right?
I believe
That's
it.
why your generational folks like the Bushes and everybody, they marry certain sets of people, and their families stay together, but they stay in power, like the Romneys, the Bushes, the Kennedys.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So it doesn't matter where you're at. So for me, it's like I got my piece. I want more. I'm going to look for more. I'm looking at land for more land now. You know, my youngest is 13, and when she's out of high school, probably going to sell it all and go live on the ocean in a boat. I mean, that's just been the thing. I can't get that out of my head the last 3 years. So, you know, sell it all, go get an expedition, and then just be a citizen of, you know, just be a free man, not even a citizen.
Yeah, just a free
You know,
man.
they want to urge us into something, you know, I can live next to anybody, but if you're going to be a heathen or a thug, you know, I'm going to have a problem. You know, where I'm at, it's quiet. I'm on my front porch, so I'm going to have to go out here.
Yeah, that's what my motivation is. It's exactly what you said. You know, like, do we have a life? And that's why I know. I've had the idea before. I've had the idea before to go to Idaho, and it's always been on my mind to get out and homestead and do that. And now that it seems like my opportunity is about to present itself, God willing, I'm excited to take it. I have no doubts to do it. You know, I don't want a complicated life anymore.
Well, the only way you have a complicated life is if you think you're important, and then you have expectations, and your ego's going to tell you that you need to be prideful and present yourself in a certain way. Because if you really pay attention and watch yourself out talking to amongst the acquaintances or your friends or family, if you pay attention and just watch yourself, you'll catch yourself talking to one person this way and another that way.
Right.
You're not being your true self.
Yeah. Now that's fall away. Now I'm just myself, and you can kind of see, like we talked about today at church, how by being kind of not, I guess, blunt, and what people take as like, wow, that's kind of like taboo talk, but it's not coming from a place of hate, but it kind of exposes how many people around you still have feelings and operate from that. When I'm beyond that, I'll say what I mean, and I mean what I say, but it's not about hate anymore. It's just gonna sound really blunt, but I can care less, because I don't care about what, I'm nobody, they're nobody.
Couldn't care less.
I couldn't care less.
Yeah, I never really thought I was important ever before, but it had a self-esteem issue, so there you're judging yourself, right? Yeah, there's none of that. It's like, I don't really care. You know who puts food on my table? Me. So, whatever y'all gotta do, I don't care.
It's crazy too, because reality is you can't control how other people judge you, or if you just live right and do right by yourself, and naturally other people are going to gather their own thoughts about you. So it doesn't matter what you think of yourself, the world's going to think of you as whatever they think of you. So like being in the entertainment industry, I do get that it's all perception, and it's like even like say Jesse, he might not think he's important, but I do know that he knows how it looks from the outside to look important. You know?
Yeah, Jesse doesn't come across to me as he thinks he.
I'm not saying he thinks that he's important. I'm saying I know that he understands how other people think.
I understand what you're saying.
You know?
He knows how to use perception.
Yeah, because I mean that's just having awareness and knowing how the world is. You know?
Right, and the world's a corpse, but it looks like it's shiny and bright, everything else, but it's not. All it'll do is lead you to death. I mean, every time the new phones come out, it's like, oh, people are going to go spend $1,000 on it, but it really don't do anything different than the one before.
I was watching.
But then now you know, $1,000.
I know you're familiar with.
My suggestion,
What was that?
you'd ask me what I would say how to live. You know, you got to get in and find yourself, and if you're a man, everything I'm doing, it's already in you. You know, it's kind of like I've got these rare breed chickens, right? So I'm getting ready because you have these white middle class women in the city. They'll pay a couple $100 for a certain bird here or there. You know what I'm saying? And us folks out here, these birds, the eggs aren't big enough. They don't lay enough. They only weigh 2.5 pounds. What are you gonna do with those? Nothing for me because they eat too much in feed, right? If you're feeding them, and they're not producing. But I sent them out there. I took them out of my horse trough that you put water in to feed a horse or a cow or whatever. And I took them out of my garage in the heat lamp because they're mostly feathered. I took them out. They'd never seen anything green, right? These birds were all done in a hatchery. They'd never seen a mama chicken. I was mama. So I dropped them out. But you know, it's amazing. They knew what to do with that green that was out there. They knew what to do with the worms. They knew how to get the worms to come up. And they'd never seen that before. Ever. And you know, I posted on Facebook. And it's like, look at that. There's a true breeds. I like the true breeds because they'll carry on. Like my flocks, I've got two. Let me see. I think I got 70 some birds, 50 on order, but those are food only. But these birds, you know, you just set them out there, they already know it's in them. It's kind of like if you're a man, you already know how to do this. You already know how to cut a tree down. You already know how to survive the woods. You already know how to fly fish. You already
Exactly.
know how to kill and eat.
That's what
You know how to do this.
we were talking about that
How much
today.
is a distraction?
We were
You
like
get the distraction out of your head.
the girls were asking at lunch. You know, but you know they would say, "Oh, well, I don't know about getting a gun because I'm just not sure." And I was like, I told her, it's like you don't need to. Like you don't need to be a Navy SEAL to know how to use a gun, to know how to do anything. It's all in you. It will be revealed. You'll figure it out.
Did you see that video of that girl that her first gun she shot was here just this past yesterday? I think it was whenever it was graduation party.
Yeah, with the shotgun, with the Chinese shotgun.
Yes, yeah, that was that M12 AK, that Kleshnikov clone, the Russian clone, Chinese version. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that was her first gun she shot. That girl's 4'8", weighs like 95 pounds or something. And you've seen it knock her a little bit, right? But it doesn't really kick. So I mean, I hear it a lot. They're afraid of it. Oh God, it's a gun. Oh no, don't point it. It doesn't have a safety. No, it doesn't have a safety. They put safeties on knives or cars. I mean, you got plastic bubble wrap around your car, or, just good Lord. It's the culture. It's the TV. It's the mad moms. It's the gun violence. Whatever they want to say. So especially in the city, you guys have that. Not all of you, but I see it. It's that fear, and they're afraid of the kick. It's kind of like going to the doctor. You're going to get a shot. And once it's over, it's like, wow, that was nothing. I suggest for the girls, and I'm going to push SIG, okay, because you can't go wrong. Sure, they're a little pricey, but look at this. That dollar's crash. You turn it into that SIG as opposed to a Taurus or, a Rossi or something made in Italy. Italian guns. The only Italian gun I would buy would be a Benelli.
M4, baby. M4. That's what I want.
No, well, that's not Italian. An M4 is what the U.S. military uses.
No, they have the Benelli, the Benelli M4.
Oh, okay. When you say M4, I'm not gonna be thinking Benelli.
Yeah, no, not the rifle, the shotgun.
Right, I know what you're talking about. And they run from 500 to like 20 grand. So, but they're the lightest shotguns you ever held, and good Lord, they don't kick.
Yeah, they're
Other
amazing.
than that, like everybody wants a Beretta, those are garbage. They'll fall apart in your hand. My wife, the first gun the The first one she shot was a Beretta, and it exploded in her hand, and then she didn't shoot again.
Wow.
Until she met me. So, I mean, I understand the fear, but once you get past that first kick, it's exhilarating, and you're not going to stop. You're going to want to go. It's kind of like that shotgun come with 5-round magazines, and I'm like, well, so I got online trying to find some where some can, but my buddy's got a 40-round drum that'll fit it, and a 20-round mag. So when you get a 12-gauge, 3-inch, 1-ounce slugs going through there, it's going to be a rush. So, I mean, you watch that little girl do it, and the pistols are even easier. So, Victoria, you're listening, go to 6hour.com, 6hourarms.com, or 6hour America. I can't remember. Anyway, find it. Go look at the P938s, the P238s. If you want a revolver, you can buy this one, the Kemper K6s. It is a 357 Magnum. It's titanium. They're not cheap. They start at about $850 and work their way up. But if you like it and you want that, you can just shoot 38 specials out of it, and it's just gonna pop, 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 and not wrap your wrist. So you can do that, or you can buy 357 cowboy loads, which is just a little more powder than 38 special. So if you want the revolver, you can do that. You're gonna spend the money on it. I wouldn't suggest buying a polymer revolver or any kind of LCP bodyguard, whether it be Smith & Wesson, whatever it is. Your trigger pull on those striker fires generally come out like 12, 13 pounds. You're jerking, you can't squeeze the trigger. You got to go pay someone to give it a trigger job so it'll loosen it up. It'll be around 2.5 pounds when you first start shooting. Me, I prefer mine 2 or under, but I've been shooting. I mean, my rifle was like, nothing. You look at it wrong, it might go off. So, but it's a 2-stage trigger, so you gotta, there's 2 parts to it, so it just doesn't blow up. It's a little fast, so it's one shot.
So, quick question, Matt, before we run out of time. What would be your answer to the question that Jesse just posed today at church? If you were a black person born in America, are you a minority?
No, well, yeah, is that what it was?
I believe so.
If you are a white person in America, are you a minority?
Oh, I think the question was asked from a black person he was counseling with, and he said, if I'm black and born in America, am I a minority?
No, for me, my answer to that, get over yourself. You're not getting past skin color, and you're playing a victim, and you think you're better than everybody else, and you think you're slighted. No, I don't think anybody that's born in America, whether they be an anchor baby or not, should segregate themselves or hyphenate who they are. And they only do that because of their parents or the schools and the government pushes that crap. Here, so for me, no. For me, I don't see color.
Good.
I mean, if you're a thug, you're a thug. I don't care who you are.
Awesome.
You can pretty much sum someone up by just watching them walk across the road. And, you cut everybody that bleed red, and I'm not a big fan of that. But then again, hey, we live in the devil's playground, so. But, yeah, no, if you're born here, you're just an American. I mean, if you want to be an African American or an Irish American or a German, I mean, whatever. Just be an American, it doesn't matter. Be free. Go get some liberty, Quit what your government, oh, well, you gotta have this license, you gotta have that license, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Well, here's the point, it's been set up for 200 years, so, all your local slaughterhouses are gone. You only have small little farms and their niches, and if you go try to buy an all grass-fed cow, you're gonna pay a lot more than the corn-fed garbage. So, but there's no slaughterhouses, and the ones that are here, there's few, and they're so overwhelmed. If I had something to butcher, I wouldn't be able to get it in probably till December, which if it's a heifer and she's going to be going in, I want it under 24 months, and that's going to put it over, so it's going to change the quality of the meat. Or if it's a lamb, you want it done before you should, 2 years, most definitely, or else it's going to just not, you might as well just go eat the grass. It's going to taste better than that lamb.
True.
But, so they set this all up, so now your grocery stores are empty, right? Well, they appear to be. Your fast food restaurants, Wendy's runs out of beef. Where's the beef? They're running out. So they set it up because now the people that are out there marching, I imagine I put a pretty good bet that they don't know how to grow nothing, you know, and they think their meat comes from the grocery store where animals don't get hurt. So you know, the powers that be have been sucking all that away from everyone. The nation, they don't know. No one knows how to grow nothing. They don't know nothing about. They believe expiration dates. An expiration date on a food product is just so the factories doesn't have to shut down.
Yeah.
On most of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, oh look, you can eat that. Well, is it still good? Okay, well you can eat it. So.
All right. Well,
so
Matt, just for the sake of time, we're gonna
I'm gonna get off here.
we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, bro. Much love to you, man, and hopefully we'll see you sometime soon.
Yeah, much love back. Yeah, you guys get out here. I got work for you.
Yes, sir.
Right on.
Bye, Matt.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
See you.
Girl, bye.
Girl, bye.
Yeah.
So, Mark's in the chat, and Hake.
Oh, no way.
La la la.
What do you know?
So Mark says.
Oh, it's the Hank Report. Rah, rah, rah.
So the question was, thanks for clearing it up. Mark, he said, if you are not white and born in America, are you a minority?
I thought it was something about what is a minority. You know, to me, I hear the word minority, and it sounds like another spell word to divide people. You know, it automatically makes you compare and measure, like minority, majority, when it's supposed to be, explaining the demographic of, population, how many people there are. But people are so intellectual and think so much in their feelings and everything, all of a sudden they start feeling that it's less than. And I think it was designed that way, just like the word racism. It deviates you from seeing good and evil and thinking about it being racism, which is an excuse for evil and judgment and all those kind of things. So minority, are you a minority? I guess whatever you want to label yourself as something, I guess that's what you are, because that's what you decided.
Oh, that was Black Stepdad's fiance that showed up. Omar.
Showed up where?
At church, the girl to his right.
Who's right?
Omar, my black stepdad.
I don't know. Who are you talking about?
Omar. He's a guy at church that has tattoos of all the spade.
I can't think of it. I know Omar on here, but I don't know. Can't think of who he is. Who that?
That's Marky Mark.
Press 1. To send voicemail.
He heard that gun talk. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
To accept, press 1. To send...
What's up, Mr. Hidalgo?
Marky Mark.
What's happening, man?
What's up?
What's happening?
Oh, I just got into the stream late and I saw people talking about Berettas.
Yeah. So why are they not trash?
Well, there's a few things that are just not super opinionated, right? I can say I like blue and you like red, and there's no real difference in both colors. But certain things are pretty objective, and the Beretta M9 92FS style, it's the most common Beretta 9mm, right?
Yeah.
That has a 5-inch barrel. So that's a long barrel. It's very accurate. It has a very little recoil. It has very high capacity. It's an all-steel gun. It's not polymer. It's not plastic. The top part of the slide is almost completely convertible. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to have a failure to eject or stove piping or whatever. So there's a few possible malfunctions you can have. You can have a failure to feed. You can have a failure to fire. And you can have a failure to eject.
And you can have a failure of life.
What's that?
And a failure in life.
That's right.
It's not the gun, it's the man behind the gun. It's not the tools, it's the carpenter.
That's right. Yeah, and that's another thing. We were talking about that on the way back from church, and Kamala was saying how hers is the Beretta, and she prefers it, and she shoots it well, you know? I took a couple friends out to shoot, and she embarrassed them, you know?
I believe it.
So, Mark, what would you say? What is your take on the way things are kind of unfolding this year and how crazy and interesting it's been? What would be your advice to somebody who's unsure of, do I stay in the city? Do I head for the hills? Do I get my guns? Do I do nothing? What would you say for a young guy trying to make his way?
Or an old guy.
I would say it's never a time to take your own safety into your own responsibility, your health as your responsibility. You should already do that. You should do that in good times or in bad times. You shouldn't just think, oh, I'm going to pull out my phone and call the police if someone wants to hurt me. That's not real, Like, there's going to be a time where you're going to have to take care of yourself. You're going to have to take care of other people. That's just real life,
Yeah, we were talking about that at lunch. At our table, we went to go eat, and we were talking about how a lot of people want to just, get rid of the police departments altogether. And but because police officers, a lot of people say their job is to protect and serve, when they're really just law enforcement. They're supposed to enforce the law. So if they get rid of the police, all that's left is people able to defend themselves. So the only way that would work in a world where, if you're entertaining that, then they have to legalize weapons, and you have to have an opportunity to defend yourself.
Well, the data is out on that experiment. I'm sure you've heard the term Ferguson effect, right?
I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I don't know if I know what it means.
Okay, so like Michael Brown was killed, right?
Yeah.
In Ferguson, Missouri. And then after that, there were riots. And there was this big anti-cop sentiment, right? Because hands up, don't shoot, right?
Yep.
Right.
So because people were so mad at cops and just had this hatred towards cops, whenever a crime would happen, the cop cruiser would show up and they would throw cinder blocks at the car. You know what I mean? And they couldn't even get out and take a report, see what's going on, and try to police. So the vacuum was filled by gangs and the body count rises. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the police are not able to do their job, more people die. Just like these riots. This has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with Democrats or climate change or being locked up with your, Uber Eats. Nobody's suffering. You know what I mean? People are just annoyed, whatever. It's just a matter of they left a bunch of pallets of bricks in the middle of the city, and every single social media shows videos of people just walking out with free stuff, and not a soul being arrested or even questioned. What do you think's going to happen?
People will be like, hey man, I can do that too. I can do it.
Yeah. That's down the street. That's 20 minutes from us right now. Let's go get some free shoes.
Yeah, not on my block. 'Cause I'm a blockbuster.
T Warrior has a great comment, and this is exactly how I see I agree with this is what they're trying to do, is that if you take away the police, which is what they're trying to do, use this anti-cop sentiment, the defunding, this all-out attack on law enforcement, if they can get rid of them, then Antifa and all these other people will become the paramilitary death squads that we saw in El Salvador, which is where, what chased my mom out of her country. She left because they were raping and murdering everybody in sight. And that's exactly what I feel like they're trying to do here, is to leave us defenseless so that we can't, they already are not arresting people, like you said. So what happens if there's less cops in the street? You'll see even more crime.
Well, I think it's just not sustainable. There's no more pallets of bricks being sent in. The riots have become protests now. You know what I mean? The looting is over.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Of course, more things may happen, but it's just a matter of incentives. People just do what they're incentivized to do everywhere. So, don't you think it's kind of odd to think that a bunch of people, if all of Twitter and Instagram is just showing people, laughing, taking stuff, and then you turn on the news and they're like, it's a peaceful protest today, and there's a burning building in the back, I would think all the people in the world that are willing to loot, willing to do some stuff, are going to go down and do it, because they just got the green light. No one's being arrested. No one's being bothered at all.
And that just goes to show you that we are a product of our influences. And so when we see that kind of stuff, it influences us to feel like, not me, like the people, but most people that are in that fallen state and controlled by the world, and they need the leaders and they need to follow what the world does. They're gonna start doing the same stuff because they see they can get away with it. Just like these cops kneeling, they see other cops kneeling, and that validates them. Be like, see, we're right.
Yeah, I mean, oddly, just talking to like cops or firefighters or whatever, people you would just think you would assume are conservative Republicans. I mean, they're left. You know what I mean? There's a lot of them that they're straight. It's the way I think of it is like there's two stories out there. You know what I mean? And one of those stories is that there's systematic blah 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 all that stuff, right?
Yeah, there's the truth and the lie. Two stories.
Poor guy, and I've been watching this video 85 times on repeat and just listening to Don Lemon to just go off, and then people just go It's like a matter of circumstance. It's like, if you were being interrogated and they were like, watch this, they want you to snap,
Yeah. For sure. I saw this video of this cop. What's his name? The black cop that was like a legendary dude that you showed me this video over here of, you just showed it to me when we walked in. It was a black cop. Anyways.
Sheriff Mike Clark.
He was talking about how, he was getting...
Sheriff David Clark?
Yeah. And he was talking to this guy about everything he thought and was against it and everything. And then the reporter started using his little wizardry spell and manipulated it and said, oh, this can be civil. We don't have to escalate things. And he wasn't escalating anything. He was just talking, and his voice was raised a little bit. But had he been saying the things that he agreed with, he would have been like, oh, I really love your passion and enthusiasm. But because it was opposing, he flipped the narrative to say that he was escalating it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, this is a good...
But like,
there's a good question, and one of the guys in the chat, there was a little back and forth on Facebook, and I thought, it's something we can dive into on this topic, and just give him some observations on the other side of it. Our buddy Steven, what are your thoughts on the idea of race mixing and interracial relationships and marriages and having mixed babies for the sake of having mixed babies? What's your take on, can it be right? Is it right? Is it right most of the time? Are people doing it for the right reasons?
Do black wives matter?
is it right to make mixed babies for the sake of making mixed babies?
Yeah. Because it seems like when people have this fetish for...
I mean, I'm going to lean no out the gate, but I haven't really thought about that,
Yeah, because what I've seen, and what Jesse, I agree with Jesse because I am mixed, and it happens like when you don't overcome your parents, you kind of make a novelty out of what is different, out of a different race or a different culture, different color, and it's not really God leading you. It's lust, and
you're running away from anything your parents are. So you end up getting something completely different, and then really attracting that same spirit.
Yeah, it's your mom's spirit, but in a different body. So that's why my stance is kind of like Muhammad Ali. It's not that it can't happen. It's just rarely is it done because God revealed it. It's usually done because of our ego.
I would say it's always done because of our ego. If you're like, if you're like whatever Vietnamese, the person's from, I don't know, some other country around there, like, but you guys look the same. I don't think that's like really an issue. Like, oh, you guys shouldn't date, or like you should think about it even. But definitely agree that like it's unnatural to just not naturally go to someone that you look like. Now, does that mean, oh my God, you're saying you're not allowed? No.
I was too hot.
Do whatever you want. I don't care. But since you asked, I don't think it's natural in that if there were no problems, exactly what you're saying, running away subconsciously, however you want to frame it. It's just it's not normal. You know what I mean? A squirrel doesn't all of a sudden try to go mate with like, you know, a rat or something. You
A
know
beaver. Hey man, who you calling rat, man? That's racist.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like
I'm gonna get step on some mine somewhere. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I like is because I've seen it. Like it wasn't. Every relationship I saw, I've got cousins who intermixed. My dad, got with a Salvadorian girl, even though she was light skinned, Spaniard blood. They were all in a fallen state, and you can see that pattern. And it's like it comes from a place of resentment, and it's like Trevor said, like you end up, it is a fetish because I would fetishize it. When I was in that fallen state, I was looking at anything that didn't look like my mother or father, but it wasn't coming from the right place. It doesn't mean that it can't once you wake up, because at that point it should be about the values.
What do you think about like, the exceptions, outliers, whatever? My dad is, black as night. My mom is white as snow.
Your dad was black?
No, I'm just saying, for example, hypothetically.
Well, I guess it'll put you in a weird situation. If you ever end up in jail, you're gonna have to write down on a little card what ethnicity you want to go with, and you might be in a little pickle.
Yeah, I mean, I just
You see what I'm saying? Like, should the half black, half white guy, for example, should Obama have gone with a white woman because his mother was white?
well, that's why it's that's where the trauma comes from. The mistakes of the parents is because they did it the wrong way out of a fetish or a novelty, because it was from that fallen state trying to run away from mama.
People don't realize it because it's a subconscious thing. They think that they're falling in love and it came natural, which I'm sure sometimes it does. But I know that a lot of people are attracted to the different. They're like, oh, it's different.
Yeah, I like the contrast.
And then it becomes more of a physical, lustful, fetish thing, like you were saying, as opposed to it just coming together naturally. Because we attract who are like-minded and like us, like people say, oh, opposites attract, but what's going to stand the test of time to where you can really, like the same things and enjoy life together on the same level, Culture has a lot to do with it.
What do you think though about people who like have a black dad, a white mom, an Asian uncle, etc.?
I think that it's a mess.
I mean, I don't know what to think at all. I don't know, because I haven't lived that life.
You understand the implication, right? Who are they, quote, supposed to naturally gravitate towards?
Oh, right. I guess they get to pick whatever they choose, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
So they get to pick, but we're all stuck, huh?
I just think,
We're all stuck.
I just believe that, like, kind of like this guy, my friend Mikey here in the chat, Mikey Darko, that God made unique nations. That if we weren't in the fallen state, we would happily, work together, do trade together. But that, like Muhammad Ali said, is that your bluebirds would fly with bluebirds and your robins would fly with robins, and that no one would think anything of it. They wouldn't even question it. But because we live in a fallen world, or people who are in a fallen state, there's all these ideas, and obviously the media, this propaganda that pushes that, and they're trying to breed out, and they haven't hidden it. You can find plenty of these politicians who say that they want to mongrelize the West.
What year did he say that?
Who?
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali?
Muhammad Ali.
There's an interview where he's sitting in a ring. I got it on my phone. I can send it over. But he was talking about that.
I know the interview, but like, what is that, like 1960?
Something about that, yeah, in and around there.
That's when the United States was 95% white, right? Or 90% white.
But how does that change the argument?
Well, he's probably saying because he was promoting
My point is that, like,
there to
it's
be
not
more.
like that anymore. You know what I mean? Especially if you live in a major city. There's everything, and that's the normal in this country.
Right.
Or it wasn't before. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm just saying, don't you think there's an argument, like, for example, Kamala, her dad is from France, my mom's from Mexico, but, like, we just kind of look like we could be related, so I don't see a problem. You know what I mean? I don't care what country it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think for me too, it's like it really deep down for everything, it's a culture thing. That if two different, completely opposite cultures come together, it's going to be a lot harder to have an understanding and to really get each other on that level. You know, if you're Indian and then this person is Asian, it's like, yeah, it could be fun. Like, wow, I get to learn the culture of other people. But there's always going to be that disconnect. I remember I had a buddy who married this girl who barely spoke any English, and he'd always be like, yeah, it's awesome because I can always tell her, oh, I don't understand, and he can get out of situations. Like, he's like, where were you last night? He's like, I told you, and and then she's like, oh, and it was like, oh, you misunderstood. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that stuff's all fun. Like, the differences are all fun, but the desire to want something different, I think, I disagree with what, you know, we've obviously all agreed that it stems from a problem, stems from a trauma. So it's, you know, obviously sticking with that or like really going all in on that. You're kind of going all in from a place that is more than questionable.
I don't know. I think it's like I said, God. He made unique nations, and I believe that all this stuff has been forced on us. They pumped our brains full of this nonsense, and it's not genuine because people. The fact that people have all these thoughts about it, and they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to make mixed babies," or "Mixed babies are just so much cuter."
It seems like it's pushed on society more so to do it. And my opinion is just my opinion. I don't think there should be laws in place. I don't think people should be forced to have to do anything. It's just conversation that people don't have.
Anything stupid like that.
Yeah, but there is an obvious propaganda, and it's the same thing they tried doing in Germany. Well, they did for a while, but it's on the record. These guys and behind the media want to do that because without a common culture, without your uniqueness, you just become a mongrel, and it makes you weaker as a people.
Yeah, people are easily controlled because they're not going to group into their own states as people.
Like if you go to Cuba, right, and you talk to the black Cubans or you talk to like the brown Cubans, there's zero difference in how they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just like in Mexico, you could be Mexican and you could be butt white.
But I'm saying, obviously in America, you know what I mean? There's a big difference between the blacks and the not blacks. You know what I mean? In culture and all that.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between the blacks and the Nigerians too, and the Africans.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that they're not all American, but that they definitely don't like unify. You know? But I mean, I would argue that they do, you know? Like, if you go to a gun show, you see every color and all that stuff. If you go to a jiu-jitsu mat, same thing. If you go out surfing, same thing. It's like, people show up for certain reasons, like for church, you know what I mean? Same thing. If people are there, they're there for that reason. You know what I'm saying? And that really shows, I believe culture is to be overcome. It's not something to be like, you know, focused on.
Do you believe in God making the nations though? How he spread them out and made them unique? Do you think that would be going against it, or do you believe that doesn't count? That story might not be valid from the Bible?
I think that I don't understand that story in the Bible, so I'd have to look at it. But I understand that, like, I'm Mexican, and I'm American, and I'm male, and I'm whatever, right? I'm a Gen X, borderline millennial. But, like, none of that means anything. And the more that it does mean something, the worse off I am. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it is better to overcome culture.
Right, I agree with that. I think culture is
Americans that wouldn't hesitate to steal from you.
Yeah, I don't agree with our identity coming from our culture, and I think that's part of the problem these days. Is too many people identify with their culture and they have pride and all that kind of thing. You know, like they're into their whiteness or their blackness or whatever it is on a level where it becomes, it's like it becomes their life. It's like I never thought about that stuff.
Even if it becomes their life, like for example, I remember I was playing this the other day. Like I used to do like more favors for someone from like a Latin American descent than I would for someone that's not. You know what I mean? Because I felt guilted by that. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, I don't care. Why does that matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those quote favors were never helping the person. You know what I mean? like enabling them. It was always about them doing wrong, helping them do wrong. Because if it wasn't about them doing wrong, they wouldn't have to go about the Mexican thing. You know what I mean? They could just be like, dude, we're doing this so that we can learn how to do this, so that we can help bond, so that we can work out, so that we can eat healthy, whatever. And then that's why you want to do it. You know what I mean? But people only bring in race when they want to do wrong.
But what?
You
But
know what I mean?
in terms of like the
children. Like, come on, man, do it for Mexicans because you can't say do it because it's right.
What about, okay, so if like Jesse's premise, and he's brought this up in church before, if our parents had done right from the beginning and been perfect examples, and say your parents were both Mexican, and my mom was light skinned salvia, and my dad was white as white, wouldn't the kid naturally be attracted to somebody who physically looked like their parents, and not someone who, like, obviously if I was raised right, I wouldn't be attracted to a black person. Wouldn't be out of disgust. It would just be that I would naturally be attracted to somebody that reminded me of my father or my mother, that had a similar culture and look.
Yeah, I totally buy that. Everyone is shaped by their childhood, by their, earthly parents, biological parents. People deny it in churches, they deny it in academia, but the evidence is overwhelming, you know what I mean? As far as like how many people believe that, from religious people to secular, everyone points towards that. So yes, it would only be natural to think, it would only be logical to think that if you want to do something other than your childhood, you'd probably see your childhood in a negative light. And if you do that, then you therefore see your life in a negative light. Because, unless you ask a very small minority of people, most people agree that people's lives are shaped by their childhood and by their parents, who they are, etc.
Right. Yeah, and it's, like I said, I'm also coming from the fact, like Mikey's very hip to what I'm coming from, is that the fact that there is this coordinated effort, on top of the fact that we're in a fallen state and the devil's behind a lot of these people, these world leaders, these elites, that their miscegenation is being used to wipe out a certain demographic, and at the moment, it's very obvious that that focus has been on the Western world, on the whites of Europe, the whites of America, and to basically breed it out. And like I said, a lot of these guys are on the record saying that they're looking forward to and actively working to breed out white people, to get rid of whiteness completely.
Yeah, that's almost inevitable. Just kind of think about it. Like, we have this thing called a Mexican, right? Which is half Indian, half European, mostly Spain, right? Mostly Spaniard. So, we call him brown, but he's like, mixed. Everything is mixed. What how many people do you know are like, trace their roots back to, Italy, Ireland, whatever, so to centuries and centuries back? I would say very, very few. So we already are super mixed, you know what I mean? And the idea of white or whiteness at all is just so general. It's like, just like the idea of blackness, like the idea that someone from, Morocco and Jamaica have something in common.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's way too encompassing. I don't believe in this whiteness thing. I obviously see people hating on white people. I'm not blind. You know what I mean? But like, the idea that like whites need to stick together because like they look alike, it's like, you guys come from completely different parts. You guys were at war nonstop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of seems low IQ.
But if you look at those wars were started.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, who cares? It's all stuff to be overcome.
Right, but those wars were started by the same people who are running this miscegenation campaign here, are the same guys who got us into war with each other. It wasn't born out of World War II is not exactly what they taught us. Nor was World War I. In that it wasn't just Europeans wanting to duke it out with Europeans. That there was a lot of these internationalists, these globalists that were working behind the scenes back then to pit European nations against each other, which were the most successful nations, and then especially singling out any of them, like Germany, who were excelling beyond the control of the central authorities, central banks, and so forth. So if they were breaking rank or making an example that you don't have to be dependent on the central system, they were made an example of, which they did it twice to Germany.
Sure, I mean, we are having problems with globalists now. It's very similar. I mean, we don't have a world war, we have a media war, we finally broke the social unrest barrier this year, you know what I mean? I don't know by what terms people holding a young girl in a burning building is not an act of civil war. You know what I'm saying? Stopping the firefighters from going to get it. I saw a post that said that. I was like, solid point. You know what I mean? Just because you look at your phone and like, oh, it's a pandemic today, oh, it's a race war today, oh, it's a looting today, oh, it's a whatever today, doesn't take away from like what actually defines like a war. You know what I'm saying? What actually defines a civil war, political war.
I think that's what we're already in a state of war. It's just not an outright one that's been obvious to us. We've been in the process of being demoralized. The easy description is communism, but it doesn't matter. It's just evil. But the way I look at it is that white people should be, to an extent, not to be into their whiteness, but to be very aware that that is something that should be preserved, just as blacks should preserve their black, like their culture and their ways. And not to just mix it all up so that all blacks just go away and you just have light-skinned blacks and there's no more actual dark blacks. There should be, Mexicans should preserve their heritage in a way. And if you got rid of all that influence from the media and you got rid of these commie international globalists off the backs of the people, I know for sure that people wouldn't be mixing on these ridiculous levels because it wouldn't be coming out of ego. They wouldn't be ashamed or resent their heritage because everything in the media tells white people you suck. So white girls want to get with black guys.
Economically, right? We're talking about like, you help your neighbor economically, right? You whatever. I'll give you some lemons, you give me some oranges, and we don't buy the store, whatever, right? We're helping each other economically because we're from a similar culture, right? Call it race, call it whatever you want, right? So that's just something for like lesser men, man. You know what I mean? That's something for weaker men spiritually that hold on to something, I think a more enlightened person, a more born again, or even just not angry person would just not even care about any of that. You know what I mean? And I don't think that means what we said about parents is different. I'm just saying the idea of like one country or one color or whatever is just silly. The entire idea of it.
But if it's silly,
it's only meant so that someone else, you were just saying it, can poke us. And because they poke us and they're like, hey, the blue team poked you, and then we go over to the blue team and they poke them, like, hey, the red team poked you.
I agree to an extent, but I mean, even Jesse, the whole point, if race isn't an issue and isn't something to be preserved, then why is it important in Jesse's eyes and in a lot of people, and especially mine, that white people in America do stand up and realize that the Western white European man and its descendants in the States here have been responsible for building the best civilizations, and they are at threat right now. And if you do get rid of whiteness, if you do breed it out of existence, and they don't fight to preserve it, you will lose what helped build that, regardless of if you have faith or you're a Christian. There is something unique to that, and I think that is going against God's way. He made unique nations for a reason, and if we don't preserve our nations, doesn't mean we can't work together, and doesn't mean that some people might not fall in love the right way, but I think it's they want us to either be hands off and just say, I don't want to pick a side, but they certainly don't want you to try and preserve
I'll
white people.
definitely pick a side now that I've let it swirl around, and I definitely am not for and against people mixing for the sake of mixing.
Right.
I always just think, man, how boring would It's a Small World ride be if you went on it and everyone was the same? It'd be pretty boring.
Say again?
It always makes me think of how boring it would be if you went to Disneyland on It's a Small World, and everyone was the same. You're like, just real quick, everyone was the same person. You're like, yeah.
Of course, like even if everyone was like some like Asian, some black, some whatever, and we just came out with the whole world the same, right? People would just be like, these people have blue eyes, these people are tall, these people are rich. It won't matter. That's why I'm saying it doesn't matter now, because it's
Right.
all nonsense anyway. It's just there to divide.
Right, and I mean, so to me, it's like people are like, I don't see color. Like, I see color, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I just am observant
Yeah, exactly.
to recognize what ethnicity people are, and I like people that are different. It just comes down to the character and the spirit that's.
And other people that are the same too. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it just doesn't matter. None of it. You know?
True. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I just believe like we gotta, our differences make us unique, and like Trevor said, if the Small World ride was all just a bunch of people who look the exact same because they just mix to death, it's to me that goes against God's will. He made us unique for a reason, and when you take into consideration that these global communists, small hat satanic kind of people are pushing that for a reason, why do they want mass immigration into the West? Why are they pushing it in the propaganda, in the movies, in the music, in the media? Why are they doing that? It is to mix you to death, to get rid of your culture, so you have nothing to hold you together. And I think there's something wrong with that, terribly wrong with that.
There's obviously something wrong with that. I'm not convinced they're all small hats. But again, that's irrelevant to me.
Right. But they are disproportionately represented in the internationalist, club.
Sure, but there's no like equally proportioned anything anywhere. Not in families, not in nature, not anywhere. You know what I'm saying? The firstborn always has a higher IQ, always has a higher income. You know, the center of the United States has like 90% of the world's tornadoes. You know, that is the norm. It's not normal that there's like a college brochure where there's like one person handicapped, an American Indian, an Asian, a black guy, a white guy, and a Mexican. You know what I mean? That's not normal. What's normal is that if people are up to something, they'll probably be the same of whatever that is. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't come down to the spirit of either right and wrong, good or evil, and the physical worldly stuff is just if you get pulled into anything about that stuff, then you suffer.
It's just there for temptation, for pride, for all these for division. It doesn't do anything good. You know what I mean?
Like here, like Victoria said it, because Stephen made a comment that he just feels like a part of him longs for a black woman, and then Victoria said, I would be basically I wouldn't want to date a dude that longs for a black chick. It sounds like porn.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Is it the long part?
Even if you want to try to make it sound good, I see myself on all likelihood, whatever, it wouldn't be good. You know what I mean? Because at some point you got to be like, what's a black chick?
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're white.
A sweet round ass doesn't have any race or color.
Cause I mean, I'm telling you, like when I was in that fallen state, and like Steven, it's not a dig at you, man. It's just like you admit, like you still get when you have irritations and anger, and you still have those issues. How can you trust your thoughts? And how do you know it's coming from God? Like that was the biggest revelation for me. Was like all that stuff was wrong. My attraction for black girls and or mixed girls or Indian girls or anything but what I look like was all based out of me resenting.
The reality is if you're looking for a family and a wife, the more attracted you are.
You gotta just be like, you're bringing race into your like sexual preference.
Well, like I realize too, like no matter what race or anything, right? The more attracted you are sexually to a different person, the more screwed up and how and off it's going to be. Because a real relationship with a family, and it's supposed to be like a father-daughter thing. And if you lead it with sex where it's a physical attraction, and that's what's keeping the fire, and that's what it is that drives you, it's gonna fail eventually because you're either gonna get old and you're no longer attracted.
I agree 100%.
You know, like that's the trick, man. Is that we get caught up into the world and in the physical stuff. We're led to believe that and be driven by lust. So I realize that the hotter the chick is, the more hell you're gonna get, and the more off it's gonna be, and the harder it's gonna be. But it's a battle because I'm naturally gravitating towards more attractive women, but at the same time it's like, man, how do I find that one person where I didn't force it? All of a sudden I look up, I'm like, man, I really enjoy this person spending their time, and they we get each other, and it works. It's like a business. It's compatibility. It's like, oh wow, you do this great, I do this great, and together we're a force. I don't know.
I can give you my little blonde testimony. Just say that.
Shoot for it. Let's hear it.
I went there for years and sucked up every video like a drug addict. Did everything he did, forgave, everything. And I remember thinking like, man, everyone at Bond is single. I'm gonna always be single, whatever. And then I was just one day for whatever reason, I just kind of let go of it. I was like, not only like I'm not gonna like oh I don't care, but I do. I was just like, maybe that's just not for me. And I just thought it was really selfish to think if you want something in life, then you just deserve it. You know what I mean? How do you just get like a human being to just be with you forever? And like as soon as I let go of it, I started talking to Tom, and it was just like bada boom. It wasn't even a year ago. We're sitting in our house. She's 6 months pregnant. We got married. Did everything Jesse told us to do, and we don't fight. We don't nothing. None of that.
That's cool. Not yet. Ha! No, I'm just kidding.
But see, like that's what you're an example of it being done, not of your ego, not born out of your resentments, not born out of anything from your childhood trauma. It was after you overcame. Kamala was added to your life. She is not exactly matching your background, but because she has your value system, and it's that is something I can stand behind. It is what it is. But 99% of the people out there, one, they're not even awake. So when they talk about trying to mix, I know it comes from a place of resentment. It's not a genuine thing, because it's also them trying to. They're taking their thoughts on it as if it matters. Like if every thought is a lie.
It's like oh man, wow, Dippin' Dots. It's like, oh wow, it's like ice cream, but it's frozen little balls, and then you're all excited about how it's different, and then eventually you have enough Dippin' Dots. You're like, all right, I just want some OG ice cream now.
Yeah.
For a while, it's like it seems cool, but then is it going to be the thing that's going to last the test of time? I don't know. I'm not saying I did.
For a while, you were all excited. It was an altered state of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when people these days are suffering and they don't know it, and that they're seeking outwardly for temporary reliefs. Like they can't sit with themselves, so they got to go out there and either eat a lot to feel comfort. Hang out with their friends all the time, or whatever it is. Eat Dippin' Dots. You don't know what's. It's easy to be deceived and think something is something because it's giving you a feeling in the moment, but you don't know if that feeling is going to last, and it shouldn't be driven by a feeling anyway.
Yeah, like Mikey Darko said, it's not something that's happening organically. You're fantasizing about it, and that's kind of where I'm getting at. Like, it's not a dig.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it should be organic, and you should have no thoughts about it. It's not saying that it can't happen, but if it's coming from thoughts, you're already off to the wrong start.
Yeah, like as annoying as it sounds for me to be like, my marriage is great, like I can tell you, I could never, ever have planned I'm going to be with someone like this, you know what I mean? Or I'm going to tell her that. Or if this happens, then you can't plan it. You know what I'm saying? There's no way. It's not like any other time. You know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah. If you can't find peace with nothing, how are you going to appreciate something?
Yeah, exactly. If you are in a state of longing for a woman, and then all of a sudden you get the woman, within a year or two, whatever, you're going to go back to your original state of longing for a woman. And now you're in trouble.
Yeah, because you just want a woman, and so you're gonna end up
Because
forcing it.
that's what Jesse says. You got married in hell. You're in hell when you're longing for a woman. When you're lusting, when you're thinking, oh, I would just be happy if I just had a girl from here or like this or like that. That's bad. You think it's good. You feel sorry for yourself. You think you're, oh, I'm like, the pathetic guy in the movie. But it's not good. You know what I mean? And that's why those things never work out. Because, like Jesse says, it's not under the umbrella of God. You got married in hell. You did
Right.
it in hell. It was for lust.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you guys are proof. You and Kamala are proof that it can happen. And I would bet Mikey would agree that, like you said, it can happen organically. But on the whole, if you were raised right from childhood with perfect examples, you, like Trevor, would be attracted to a girl who looked like him. She would be a white-skinned girl. I would be attracted to somebody
And
who...
it's got nothing to do with how you were raised with your parents, because as an adult, the responsibility is on you now.
I'm really attracted, if I think of it just physical, like I'm attracted to like hot Cuban Brazilian chicks. They got those butts, and but I realize they're probably more so. I don't know. I noticed like that culture is definitely going to be more. The women are going to be more fire, if you will, like more like controlling. I feel like, but I don't know. I mean, I've dated him before, but I don't know, man.
It's an interesting topic, but yeah, I
Starting off on the butt shape is not a good place to start.
It's not exactly. But hey, God created symmetry, right? I can't control my face when I look over and I go, damn!
Yeah, I mean but I just stand by it. Like if we had perfect examples, you would the odds are you would be with someone that looked like you, that was of your kind. Just like Jesse has says, it's the fallen state that breeds all those things, and it's not hey, some people have kids like T Warrior. He's a stand-up dude. Woke up, he's got some Latino kids. Doesn't mean that hey, it is what it is, and those kids are innocent of anything. It doesn't make a difference, and you can raise them right by being an example. But if we were all had those examples from childhood, I would wager that we wouldn't see as much mixing, and it wouldn't be out of hate. It would just be that it just wouldn't happen.
Sure, yeah, definitely. It comes from trauma. It's not natural. I agree with that.
But I mean, hey, it can be overcome.
Yeah.
All right,
And,
you guys, I'm going on 45 minutes and I want to listen. I like listening.
all right, bro. Well, thanks for calling and supporting, brother.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, for sure. See you guys.
See you.
That was a good call. It looks like we missed one. So this was a hot topic. The chat is lighting up.
Nice. Yeah, and I think it's cool to have these kind of conversations because society kind of tries to make us afraid to talk about stuff because people are afraid they're going to be called racist or certain names about whatever it is, phobic of some kind of sorts. When we should all be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about without being a threat of our character and our, intentions. Like, we're just talking, man.
Yeah, Steven, stay with us. I know
T-Warrior.
the only way to kind of get through this, Steven, is don't walk away. We got to relax in it. If you're feeling anything, just sit there, let it happen, because these are important topics. It's those moments. The reason why I brought it up is because Steven did say he was getting irritated.
Yeah.
And
In the chat?
on Facebook today with Skip. So that's why I was like, hey, this is a great topic. Let's talk about this tonight.
Yeah.
Because that's how you got to overcome your anger. You shouldn't be irritated. So T-Warrior, thank you for calling.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's up, bro?
Oh, not much, man. Just tripping out on all this news and the decapitation of our police forces here, man.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to hear about it, but to see it is another thing.
It goes to show you, man, how if anyone's racist, it's all these radical leftists because they obviously are thinking in groups where they're gonna group a whole police society as something, because that's the way their mind is, that they are obviously grouping people when it's like police officers are just human beings just like everyone else. They have families, they have everything, and you can't let a couple bad eggs, bad apples taint the whole thing,
Yeah, it's to me, okay, so all these people who are riding around pretending to
Right.
And these people are they're complete liars. A lot of them probably don't even hang around black people.
Yup.
You know, a lot of those people that are tearing up and rioting, those same people who are supposedly fighting for black rights wouldn't even go in those people's neighborhoods. But yet they'll sit here and cry, Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. Like this girl from Orange County, she would be all posting and being like, as a white person, you shouldn't be speaking about it. I'm like, you live in Orange County, it's all white, and you don't even know what you're, like, what do you...
What do you think, I know you probably, you're pretty sharp, but like, me and Trevor were kind of laughing because there's these two conflicting and contradictory messages coming from the black community, BLM style, saying, on one hand, that white silence is white violence, and then on the other hand, you, as a white man, you don't know what it's like to be black, so you got to shut your mouth because you can't talk about black issues.
Yeah, so shut your mouth or be silent. You're screwed either way.
That's ridiculous. First off, you can't. So how can we? And I'm using that term loosely. How can we as black people, right, say that we hate racism? We've been downtrodden all this time. You look at my skin color, you see me this way, and you feel like I'm this way because I'm black. Yet we turn around and do the same exact thing, and even worse to white people.
Yeah, you become what you resent, man. And you know, like, growing up in the music industry and being the white guy in the room all the time, people always said, like, oh, what's up, white boy? Like, singing white boy, oh, like, you know, you get your soul from smoking weed, or, like, just all kinds of stuff like that. And I never let it bother me, but then like, when I woke up, I realized, dang, like, I'm just a novelty guy because I sing and I'm white, you know. It was always about me being white.
Yeah, and you know, some of that, Trevor, is not, some of that is not meant to offend. It's kind of like,
Right? No, of course.
You know,
Just like I make jokes about stuff, but because I'm white these days, people take offense to it no matter what. And like I said, I don't take offense to it. I just see the double standard in that it's all in the name of equality. But if I say anything, you know, like even say the N-word, right? Like most black people are dropping N-bombs all day to each other, and you could be hanging out with someone you'd think was your best friend, and you're white and they're black. But if you said it, all of a sudden they would treat you different and turn against you. Like, I'm just using it as a hypothetical. I never wouldn't use that word.
Most black people don't even care about that word. It's just they find, okay, now I have opportunity. I'm gonna rough this white dude up for saying it.
But that's what I'm saying. Because that you would want it, they would want to do that and rub you up and all that. It lets you know that there is a resentment there, and that deep down, it's a racial issue for them. You know, like there is a difference. Because like me, I wouldn't say saw color. Of course I see color, but I would want to hang out with my black friends just like I would my white friends or Asian or Mexican. There wouldn't be a difference because it would be like a soul connection. It'd be like, damn, like that's my brother right there. You know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, man, like I told you this before. Man, I was growing up around white people, black people, Mexicans. We were all poor and broke, you know. And everybody talked the same, they acted the same. It was the same culture we were living in. So, you know, it wasn't that guy over there is white, let's go beat him up. Because we were all living in the same doggone pile of crap, you know?
Right.
There wasn't none of that. But when you have the media that constantly pumps out these things that are supposedly racial issues, and then you have a great bit of people in society that are willing to believe it, and then, okay, now I have something to put all my problems on, not my own decisions, but now I can put my problems on white people. Just look at what they did in Nazi Germany. They blamed everything on the Jews, you know, everything. So now...
Well, they are pretty sneaky. They are pretty sneaky.
Well, you can't group a whole group of people and say they are anything.
Yeah, let's go murder millions of them. You know what I mean? But the way it's going right now, because, dude, I cannot stand when somebody white gets accused of something, and instead of them standing their ground, they just back down and do this apology, like Drew Brees.
Right. It's super popular now.
What Drew Brees said was 100% accurate and true and right. He didn't say anything wrong. But I'm listening to Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith and all these rich black dudes
Is this the football player?
Drew Brees, yeah. Yeah, didn't Drew Brees come out initially criticizing the protesters, and then he ended up like basically bending the knee?
I don't know if he. I don't recall seeing him physically bend his knee, but.
Oh yeah, but in the press, like he apologized or.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, he apologized several times. But what he said had nothing to do with race. He was talking about his nation. He said that his family served in the military. He finds it disrespectful to kneel during the national anthem or disrespect the flag, so on and so forth. He believes that saying, us standing with our hand over our heart shows unity in the country. So he was right about that. But they turned it to a race issue, and all these rich black folks now for it. Like all these leading NFL football players. Oh, I'm Michael Brown. I'm Breonna Taylor. I'm George Floyd. All this crap. Man, look, these people wouldn't even hang around those folks if they were out there in the street. They probably would have ended up shooting them or beating them up themselves.
Just like Maxine Waters and Al Sharpton, they don't live and hang out with the communities that they want to save.
Yeah. None of them do.
Definitely.
As soon as you get money, you leave the hood.
Yeah.
If George Floyd would have gotten shot by Taquan or Ray Ray in the hood, Al Sharpton would be nowhere near that man's funeral.
Right, and he wouldn't have been buried in a golden casket.
Oh, gosh. The dude was on meth and fentanyl. You know the crime this man committed, and I'm not saying that the death was justified, but you can have a situation where you have two wrong sides in the same situation.
Right, exactly.
This dude was
It's called a
guilty
mess.
of pretending to be a utility worker, going and knocking on a pregnant woman's door. Once he realized he wasn't really a utility worker, he busted the door in and pistol whipped the pregnant lady and robbed her house. So, but he's innocent and he's a martyr. Get out of here with that mess, man. How was he involved in the police in the first place? To me, okay, I'm still waiting to see the story where a black man is going to work one day, he's carrying his luggage, and the cop pull over and say, "Hey, Blackie," and just shoot him. I'm still waiting to see that story.
That's what they're making it seem like is happening when they say like it could be me next or my son. Like I'm like, are you guys out there committing crimes and resisting arrest and all that stuff? It's like you're living a good life and it seems like they're taking advantage of it and trying to like people want free stuff out of this, whether it's free compassion or free kisses on your feet, or like free stuff or reparations or whatever. I don't know. It just doesn't seem genuine to me.
Yeah. You see what they did to that retired police officer, David Dorn?
Yeah.
When they shot him and left him there, and the guy who's filming it, instead of using his phone to call somebody to help the guy, all he's doing is standing there, shot him over TV,
Some TV, cuz. Really, cuz?
He just takes the old school stick with me. I'm like, dude, the guy got shot over TV, like you said, free stuff. But the Bible says the heart of man will grow even colder and colder because people don't have a heart bent towards righteousness. And so all they want to do is pillage, loot, riot, and that's what their heart is filled with. You're talking about some people that were childhood raised probably mostly by their angry black mother or their weak white parents, and so they're out here tearing up the city, and that makes them feel some sort of power, and all they're doing is destroying innocent lives and even destroying their own lives. But it boggles my mind how people are so willing to back down. When I see the videos of these police officers, sworn police officers, taking the knee and lying on their stomach and all that, they should be fired on the spot, man. They should be fired. They should get no respectful burial when they got none of that because you just dishonored the whole reason you even got into serving the city or whatever. Man, you garbage to me once you do that.
Right. You know what I think too part of the problem is a lot of I've heard that with the police force and stuff like that, and even with schools, is that you used to have to pass certain tests and go through certain things, but you don't have to anymore. So you could just be anybody that comes in and joins the police force. So they're not conditioned to have that kind of like, you know, solid rock kind of like, you know, non-emotional, this is my job and I'm upholding the Constitution and
It's
all that,
it's
all
like
that.
the changing of the lowering of standards, and like Mike said in the chat, like one of the lies, besides the lie of, you know, white self-hate and blacks being perpetual victims, some of the other lies are that we need to make women got to do every job a man does. Like it's not the way it is. The natural order is women don't go do policing and any of that stuff. Doesn't mean they can't use a gun if someone's at their property and the husband's not there. But that world that they want us to believe exists is a lie, and it's destroying us because it's out of order. There should be no female cops. There should be no female soldiers. It's just not their place, and it's not out of hate. It's what's the role. Like the men are the warriors. The men fight, and let them have that culture because they will execute that job dutifully and in the right way versus bringing in female emotions and somebody who's not physically capable of carrying their partner out of a war zone.
And usually women that find themselves wanting to do those things, it stems from wanting to compete with men and feel like it's an ego thing, that I can do that too, and I'm going to do it better.
Yeah, it goes back to what Jesse always points out is once you step out of the order that God set for everybody, you know, God over Christ, Christ over man, man over woman, woman over children. Once you step out of that order, it's just like moving a vertebrae out of your spine, man. Everything
Out of
else
your
just goes
spine.
to crap.
Right. Exactly.
It's like if you're in choir and you're like the soprano over here singing and you're like, well, I want to be the conductor, and then she takes over and then the whole choir sounds like crap.
Yeah. Well, that's what you get, man, when you have all these black people that are raised in the ghetto, they grow up hating white people, and then they get in positions of authority. And they don't have any training in discipline or morals or anything, but they have a position of authority. And if you look at all those places where blacks are in charge, it turns into a slum and into a ghetto. Because they've been raised their whole life not to be upstanding or not to not to show morality and good actions. But they've been shown to hate white people and despise people. So all their decisions are based on anger and hate, and it destroys everything. You know, I was listening to this guy. I don't know if y'all ever heard of this dude. He's a congressman named Hank Johnson. Man, this happens to be one of the dumbest human beings I've ever heard speak in my life.
His name Hank Johnson sounds like two Johnsons.
His name is Hank Johnson, man. He actually believed that the island of Guam could capsize if there were too many people on it.
What?
I heard about that nonsense.
What did they say?
That they thought the island was gonna capsize. The freaking island's gonna sink into the ocean because there's too many people.
You got to see videos of this guy. It's unbelievable. I think he's probably the only person that could possibly be dumber than Joe Biden. I mean, the guy is on there talking about midgets wrestling giants. I mean, all that stuff. They have a video of this dude. He's giving an analogy. If you put 3 midgets in a ring with a giant, the giant will beat the midgets. Then the next day he gets on there and apologizes. He said, I realized what I said was wrong. I should have used the M word. The M word.
What's the... Oh, that's so stupid. I should have said little people, so you might have thought I was talking about children.
Yeah, this is it's just crazy to me, man. Like, dude, I'm concerned with y'all too, man. Like, I don't know what y'all dealing with over there. Like,
It's a mess.
It's insane.
It's a mess, bro.
Just to be white, you can't even walk up the street. Like,
Yeah, you can't walk up the street without a white person trying to shame you for being white. You're like, wait. They're like, Black Lives Matter, right? Before you swipe your card, and you're like, of course. I mean, you can't say all lives matter. Isn't that crazy? That if you said, hey, white lives matter, just that phrase alone is like, how dare you say that white lives matter? It's like, what? Like, why? It's such a manipulative tact to take a phrase, and then now, if anything else matters, you're anti-black. It's like, what?
It's silly. It's kind of like a double standard that
It is. It traps you, and it insinuates that Black lives didn't matter. Like, who said that Black lives didn't matter? Of course, Black lives matter.
Man, black people don't even care about black people's lives. Because why haven't you seen Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Angela Rye, all these loudmouth black people? Why haven't you seen them in inner city Chicago? Why haven't you seen them in South Oak Cliff, Dallas, in Houston, in New Orleans? Why haven't they been there telling these black people, get up, get an education, get a job, stop shooting each other? Why haven't they been there? Because there's no benefit in that.
They want to act like they don't really want to help people. They want to act like it's not happening, and then create anger amongst the community so that they can control them, because angry, demoralized people are controllable.
As long as you can keep them poor, broke, and angry, you can continue to control them, and they'll continue to vote for you if they even vote.
Yeah, they're gonna always think that they need you.
Yeah. It's just like this, so they see these people who live in violence and high rate of abortion, drug addiction, high school dropout, fatherless home, and instead of them telling them they can fix the problem or how they can fix the problem, okay, we're going to give you handouts, and we're going to give you a reason not to even try to get out of your situation. White people did it, there you go, have fun. You know?
Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy how people who are successful and achieve success on their own are now not telling them how they did it, or that they can too, that they can be powerful, work hard. You know, like look at The Rock, right? The Rock was a football player, a wrestler, an actor, all kind of different things, and he worked hard and became successful in his life. And not saying The Rock has said anything, because I don't know what he said, but he seems like the type that would. But like, there's celebrities like that who are successful in their own lives, and then they're gonna go give other advice that they never took in their own life and try to make excuses for other people, like, oh, you can't do it, it's not your fault, but I did it. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just these celebrities who live in this bubble. You know, these people don't really, even if they lived there at one point, at this point in time, they don't really understand what it's like. They don't really know it. I mean, these guys don't even pour their own coffee anymore, you know?
Right.
They don't
No,
know
that's
anything
true.
themselves anymore.
That's
they
so
don't know
true.
what real life is anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and they want to see, like Oprah Winfrey, come on.
And they all wanna win over the hearts of people by making them think that they're good people, because ultimately it's selfish. They don't really want to help people. They just want to like be liked and be like, oh wow, that was really sweet of you. He really cares.
Yeah, I like to, sometimes they have, videos, YouTube, and I'll get on the comments. I'll make my little remark, and somebody will get on there, and a lot of times it's a white dude, right? And they'll get on there and be like, you as a black man should be, I am appalled that you would feel that way. And so I ask them back, okay, how am I supposed to think as a black man? I never get a reply.
Right. Or people will tell me, they'll be like, you don't know what it's like to be judged by the color of your skin. It's like, I just was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wickedness, man, to the highest order. And I was glad to see Donald Trump at least take a stand, and got up there and held that Bible in front of St. John's Cathedral, because these people, man, they hate God. It don't have nothing to do with race. It really doesn't. These people are just so evil and wicked that they found opportunity to go and do some evil things. But what kills me is the white people that lay down and take it.
Right.
And instead of standing their ground, to me, I would rather see you. Look, it don't even bother me. I would rather see a dude walking up the street saying white power. I would rather see that than to see a white dude go and apologize for saying something that he knows is right.
Right, and even if you're not right, like, be hot, like it says in the Bible, be hot or cold, but stop being lukewarm. Like, just, it's ridiculous.
I can't stand it, man. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad thing to see that these people build their lives up for over 30 years and get their business taken away in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
They had an interview with a guy. The guy even admitted, he said, no, it ain't about no George Floyd. I'm just trying to give me some money.
Exactly.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I posted that. I was like, respect to him for being honest.
Yeah, at least he's honest about it. I mean, none of this is about that. Like, it's all from anger. Like, that's how I, like, after Jesse Lee, like, that's exactly it. Like, I don't care what the argument is. If you got emotions, if you're coming from an emotional place, you're already wrong.
Yeah.
You're done. Like, nothing you say is gonna be logical, no matter how much facts you throw in there, because it shows that you're under you're working for that wrong spirit. God isn't like that. So none of these people are right. None of these all this whole entire thing was all been based off emotion, which is based off the devil.
You see the video of the guy, he was posing as a Black Lives Matter worker or whatever, and he made the white niggas get down on her knees.
Yeah. That's
That's insane, man. Like you mean to tell me this woman walked around her whole life with this so-called white guilt that she just dropped down to her knees at the drop of a hat just to please somebody she don't even know?
I think white people are afraid, man. They're afraid. And so they're afraid of being called racist. They're afraid of the backlash that they would get for standing for themselves because it's been drilled in them. And, I was lucky because I didn't get that regular public education. But in school, you're taught it from a young age about slavery and like subconsciously it goes down to you where you start to hate because most white people are not racist at all, and they want to prove that they're not racist because it's been set in them to have to try to overprove it when people need to just be centered and know themselves, and like they don't know themselves, so they're afraid that they're defined by what someone else says about them.
right. Like it matters. Like ever since I've woken up, like I go hard on some of these issues, just like what Jesse would say, but because I'm a white guy saying it. Of course, the easy card they're gonna pull is, oh, you sound like a racist. And I've had some people in this last month like message me, like people that I've done nothing but been honest with and always supportive. Never cared about anything they posted when it was about Black Lives Matter. But they look at my stories and be like, oh, you're a racist. I can't support this anymore. And it doesn't matter. Like like the second you defend yourself. Like Trevor said, the second you start playing that game, it's like dealing with an angry woman. You already lost. You're not supposed to even bother with it. Like, I know what I am, and I know what I'm not. So I can care less what the world wants to call me. If anything, your anger shows me that I am on the right path, because I'm not following the crowd.
Man, the question that Jesse Peterson asked people, mostly black people or whatever, he'll ask them to love white people, right? And most of the time, by the person's initial reaction, you can tell if they love the white people or not, because they'll say, why I love everybody, but they can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Because it's so deep-seated in their heart to hate white people for whatever reason, that is something that's dear to them. That hate is something that's really gives them, that's their safety blanket of life, is that I hate white people.
Yeah.
No matter what happens to me, I can pull out that blanket and rub it against my face and I'll be okay in the morning,
I remember one video is like, do you love white people? He's all, I respect them. He's like, I didn't ask you to respect them. I asked if you loved them. He says, I love all people, but do you love white people? He says, I respect them. And he just kept going in a circle. I'm like, bro, that's what opened my eyes to realize that it is this or that. It is direct questions that you have to answer. It's simple. The answers are simple. It's not this complicated intellectual thing that's going to troll off into distracting you from being like, wait a second, this guy didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, like I feel like you answered it, but you didn't.
Exactly. I feel satisfied, but wait a second.
And that's like you should be able to use less words. If you can't use less words, then you're it's like another sign. If you got emotion, you're wrong. If you're a whole paragraph to say what you believe or to justify what you're doing, you're wrong. It's all from the same spot. Truth is simple.
I don't know if you guys saw this, and I wish I could remember the dude's name, but he was on Jesse's radio show one day. And this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. But I guess he was some sort of college guy. I don't know what he did, but Jesse was asking something. The guy just kept talking, and he wasn't making no sense. He was like, well, let me tell you. See, the thing is, if you study the philosophy of the ancient Greeks and the Romans, you will realize the fact have been marginalized in the way, percentage of the ratio of us in our emotional status will really increase the sophistication
that guy. And he said, you just said a whole truckload of words without any meaning.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what it was, man. I'm like, that's what's being bred. It's either you're a complete moron who only thing you know how to do is tear up a city, or you're an over-educated dummy who just knows a whole lot of words with no substance.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's pathetic, man. Live life, meet people. A lot of those people don't even personally know any white people.
Right. Just like the suburban white people who are like the allies for blacks, and they don't even know black people. They don't even know about the cities that are being looted and burned down or whatever. You know, like it's crazy. But it goes to show you, man, like that it's kind of by design. Like if you go back to the book of the Bible, and they ate from the tree of knowledge, and as soon as they got that knowledge, all of a sudden they were cursed. And everybody, and nowadays they tell you knowledge is power, and so they dismiss having wisdom from God because wisdom and knowledge are different. You know. And people, they get all in their egos about their knowledge, and they want to cast these spells on people because most people are so measuring, you know, like even the minority thing. It's like, oh, minority, oh, I'm a minority. That means that I'm not worth anything. So they hear these words from people, and then they go, oh, wow, those are bigger words than I use. He must know what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's all intellectual, which is all bad. There's nothing that good comes out of that. You can be wise and sound like what they would call a hillbilly, but that hillbilly has more sense.
As a black man, though, is that I can talk to somebody and tell them, dude, I'm 40. I've never, ever had any racist thing happen to me. I've never been held back because I'm black.
Lil Wayne, is that you?
But check it out. And then they get mad and try to convince me that I have had something racist happen to me.
Yeah, and then they'll tell you that, well, you just don't get it because you hate yourself.
Yeah.
So
That's called self-hate, brother.
Exactly. Exactly.
So T.
The white man has convinced you to believe his lies. Come with me and sell the bean pie. You know?
So T, with all this stuff happening, so the reason why I push hard, and it's like I don't wake anybody up. God wakes me up. He woke me up, and if He's gonna wake anybody else up through me, it's Him, not me doing it. But what I see is being an urgent matter, just like Jesse's kind of sounding the alarm for whites that if they don't wake up, I mean, I think certain things are irreversible at this point, but they are under threat. Like what happened in Rwanda, what is happening in South Africa, where they boiled a kid alive after they raped his mother in front of him. You know how they're unleashing this hatred towards whites on a massive scale, and people have no idea what's coming. Do you agree that we're facing something like South Africa and possibly worse because of how long they've been working this population here?
Definitely. The fact that you can look overseas and see somebody in Paris, probably named Francois, saying he's rioting because of George Floyd, they do know it's fake. These people, if there's something happening right now that's very terrifying, and if people don't wake up and speak up and stand up, then it's going to be very daunting, man. We'll end up looking at the news, seeing white people dragged in their houses and set on fire.
Exactly. That's what I see coming. It's gonna. That's what I'm trying to. I'm just doing what I can in the time I have. I'm still planning on my own escape because I can't save anybody. But while I'm here, and while I have some kind of way to talk to people and share stories, that's my go home message for whites. Is prepare.
I think that's why Matt said, I would try and get out of there because why sit in hell, when...
Well, yeah, I'm still planning to escape, but kind of like Jesse, I have, I'm not going to worry about all these side issues. My main takeaway for whites, wake the hell up, buy guns and ammo, war is coming, and they want your blood. My takeaway message for blacks, get over yourself. You're not a perpetual victim. You're the source of your own problems when it comes to most of the issues you think you have. Because if we worry about all the other stuff like police brutality and all these distractions, you don't deal with the root. And it's about to get worse.
And these white liberals that are like holding up the sign saying, "Are you an ally today?" They think that they're helping a lot, but if that does happen, people are not gonna care. You're gonna be killed too. You're gonna be. It's just like that guy in the window of that video. The guy's looking out his window and he's got the protest and he's giving a thumbs up like, yeah, guys. And then they throw a rock through his window. He's like, I'm with you. I'm with you. Like they don't care.
Yeah, because they don't care about no white people. Dude, the same people that's marching with them, they'll turn on them in an instant. Proof is, I believe the mayor of Minnesota, I think it was him. He was out there with the Black Lives Matter.
Oh yeah, the boohooing.
He was crying, trying to get his brownie points.
And then they asked him, they said, are you going to get rid of the police, right? And the dude grabbed the mic and he's like, no. And they said, get out of here. Get him out of here. They
Right.
put that out of the file. You know? Like,
Exactly.
people don't care,
That's
man.
why
They
it's
will
true.
rob it.
If you hate one, you hate all. You got no love for anybody.
Yeah, like Mikey in the chat has a good point.
Hey, yo, Mikey.
Mikey, and the reason why, just like Jesse said, blacks are not going to replace whites. They're being used as they're the vanguard of this attack. They've been weaponized through anger to lead this charge under this false narrative, which motivates everything else. So it creates this cover, this confusion, so that these forces of evil, some are small hats, some are whites, some are whatever.
But all are Satan.
But they're all working for the devil, and they're using blacks and this anger to destroy the West, which is to destroy Christianity. The last strongholds, pretty much the only strongholds for Christianity, happens to be in Western white countries. And Mike said that it is in the best interest of people of color, especially if you're an American, it is actually in your best interest to help fight to preserve that Western culture, which happens to be mostly white, because look, it's the country that gave you these freedoms, and standing up for them doesn't make you lesser than them, doesn't make you subject to them. It just means that you realize, man, I'm glad that these Europeans came here because they built an amazing country, and I want to keep it that
I
way.
don't understand why people can't be grateful about their life. Like people want to take credit for everything, whether it's music or the country. They're like, we built this country. Like, you didn't do anything. You just here absorbing and living your best life. Or like people will tell me that that I'm writing off the backs of black culture because of my music, and it's like people that don't even make music. They just happen to be black and telling me that I'm writing them. And I'm like, well, how am I writing anything about you? I put in the work, and I appreciate this kind of music. And people just discovered this music. God created all things. And when we start taking credit for stuff that we didn't have any part of, really, we're just here to celebrate life, like. And to me, it's like I see it as a compliment. Like I'm celebrating and keeping culture alive by celebrating the music of it, like playing Stevie Wonder songs or whatever. Like if people stopped, then you would be forgotten. Like, wouldn't people be glad to see that it's just being celebrated? They have to use it as a negative to turn it around and say that I'm riding the backs. Like, it's just a negative way of thinking about it.
That's just somebody who hasn't achieved anything in their own life, and I want to find somebody and I want to make them feel like crap because they're successful. That's silly. I think that once people get a hold of the idea of doing things right, and they will once they get a hold of that and really understand it's true, then you'll see a change in them. But if they don't, it'll just continue to be destruction.
Right.
My wife just handed me this. Video. It says white North Carolina cops and civilians watch the feet of black protesters.
Yeah, amazing.
We saw it.
What in the world, man?
It's just just pathetic.
Straight disrespect.
It's just
But
pathetic.
I can't blame the black people for that because these white people are the ones that are agreeing to do it. It's like people saying, oh, we didn't have. If they didn't put crack in our communities, we wouldn't have did it.
Yeah.
Like, no, like you decided to smoke the crack. You could plant heroin all over this house. It doesn't mean that it's the person who put the heroin here. I picked it up and injected it. So these white people kissing or washing boots or whatever, they're just weak, pathetic fools.
Yeah, what's gonna happen, unfortunately, is that they're using the blacks to drive this. They're their little wedge. They're the wedge they're gonna drive into this nation to tear it apart. And unfortunately, blacks are still a minority. and them trying to go into white neighborhoods in the countryside where these guys are loaded for bear. It's setting them up for a slaughter.
Let them do it. They need to, so they can see what reality is.
All these rednecks hanging out in trees and waiting for something to kill.
And you can go in there and get a TV and jewelry and take off running, and you see them bullets flying at you, then you know what reality is.
Yeah.
You know, all that, oh, yeah, we're going to take you to the suburbs, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you don't even want to go outside on your own street. You don't even want to hang out on your own street corner, but you want to talk like you're going to run up to somebody else's house. Get out of here with that mess.
Exactly.
Right. But, hey, I'm going to get off this phone, guys. I enjoyed talking to you.
Hey, T. One last thing.
Yeah.
I know Mikey said he's a friend from Facebook, but new to the streams. He says earlier he's like T needs to be red pilled on the JQ. So if you have time, I recommend a documentary called Europa: The Last Battle. Europa: The Last Battle. Give a look at that if you got time. No, just a recommendation, but that will give you a different take on World War II, which is where I was. That's why I was joking. That's why I was joking about. They're sneaky. So I don't think the story that we were told. Well, I know the story that we were told is not true, but look at it. See what see what you think for yourself, and if you get around to it, I'd love to hear what you think.
All right, man. I'll do that, man. I love you guys.
All right, love you, bro.
I love you too, man. Be well and
Love
send
you
our
too,
best to the
man.
family. I love you, man. I'm crying like Jacob Frey.
I don't know what time it is, but it feels almost like it's that time.
It's getting close. Let's see what the chat is lighting up, bro.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like that, thumbs up, leave a comment when we're done or whenever you can so we can grow it and help wake up people and point the right way.
Are you white man?
Party white van.
Why are you like that?
Everybody knows a white van is a creepy pedo van.
Hey Marty, we'll make it real short, but you got a quick question for the chat or for us?
Is white van your real name?
I actually want it to be short. I just want to tell you that Tyson James, whatever you want to call him, he's coming out with a new single. It's really good. It's called All Lives Matter.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, he put up a sample on the web that I think it's going to be a really good one. And he also said that he wants to work with Trevor. But
Oh, nice.
he wants Trevor to contact him. I don't know.
That's what's up.
If you're willing to do that, but he's got a Facebook page and everything like that. But
Yeah, for sure. I gotta do that for sure. I actually have this beat that I've been working on that maybe he would. I sent it to Joel, but maybe they both can get on it.
yeah, I mean that would be cool. I mean, he said he'd really like to work with you, so I'm just letting you know that.
That's what's up, man. Thanks. Hey, is White Van your real last name?
Yeah, no, it's an alias.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I've never heard that, but that's cool. All right.
All right, and don't kill your co-host because I saw you freaking loading up that revolver.
Oh yeah. Well, I gotta always stay prepared, man. He is half Mexican.
Yeah, I'm half sneaky.
I saw some people in the chat that were saying it was a fake gun, and I was like, I don't think so.
I mean, it could be. Let's see. Do fake guns? Do fake guns have fake bullets?
Yeah. All right, man. Well,
Okay.
I just wanted to call to tell you that. So
Thanks, Marty.
I'll let
All right.
you guys go.
See you later, brother.
I'll get you later, man.
Bye.
All right.
All right. So, any closing statements, Trevor, about this hot button chat we had tonight? Catherine Payne, she just dropped a huge super chat.
Oh, no way, Catherine.
I think she deserves a little jingle or
I
something.
appreciate that, Catherine. Which reminds me of a little jingle cover by a little man named Juicy Smollett. This is my contract. Well, everybody's racist, yeah. This is MAGA contract. Well, everybody's racist, yeah. This is MAGA contract. Everybody's racist. This is MAGA contract. Well, everybody's racist, yeah.
So, thank you, Catherine. That was a huge super chat.
I appreciate it, Catherine. You're always showing support. And like I said, you guys like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment so whatever the algorithm That's what I heard. I don't know how it works, but I always hear people saying that it gets the algorithms going. YouTube can suggest it to other people,
Yeah.
and especially when we hop on here and start doing it like right away. If you share it, that way people can see it live in action. Because I'm sure it's not as cool as seeing it live happening. It's when you replay it or whatever. It's like the views we're gonna get are probably the views we get as it's happening live. It's not like it's going to build over time. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but that's what I've noticed with the live
Schmitty, Schmitty, call in. You want to call in?
All right.
Yeah, we'll take one last call for Schmitty.
Cause he's not shitty. His name is Schmitty.
Schmitty. Super chats are never shitty. They're always litty. That's Schmitty.
Unknown caller.
Schmitty never talks crap. Schmitty never takes long naps.
Schmitty!
Schmitty never.
What's up, fellas?
What's up, man?
Nothing. I'll be real quick. I know you guys want to get off here. There was a conversation that was going on in the chat, and the credit solutionist. I just wanted to share a personal story that maybe will help her understand, but just other people understand white guilt.
Yes, expound on it.
Okay, so
Shoot.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead and share. We want to hear what you got to say.
Okay, so you guys ever heard of Jane Elliott? I think Jesse interviewed her.
I can't say so.
Some old white battle axe. But anywho, she was on Oprah. She was on there saying how white people were racist, this and that. And when I was in first grade, I had a teacher, and I didn't know any of this until later in life. But she was of the Jewish persuasion. I mean, not that that's real important, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. And she took 5 of the class. I was included because I have, blonde hair. Blonde hair, blue eyes. It took 5 of us, and I guess we were just like discriminated against the whole day. And I didn't really think much of it, but psychologically, I find that stuff for kids. And this kind of stuff. I don't know if that's a horrible thing that goes on or whatever, but that's just stuff that I personally had to deal with. And later on in life, I became liberal, kind of self-hating. And also I'm German on top of that, so that was even extra guilt, I would say.
Yeah, man, I hear you.
What do you,
I can see it now for sure that I've woken up and seen it in my past. I was blind to see that I was afraid to treat people exactly the same because I would just be quiet about certain things. I'd be like, well, I'm white, so I don't know. And skin color played a factor in my mind, and not from a hateful place, but from a place of fear, which is basically hate anyways. But it's not like I didn't even know it, and it's not a racist thing. It's just, it was a fear, and I think a lot of white people are like that. That you, by default, if you're afraid that you're going to be judged or called racist or whatever, you're going to tiptoe around certain things, and I think people need to overcome that and know themselves so that they don't have to be afraid, and everybody can be treated exactly the same.
Yeah.
so Smitty, what do you think? I mean, you're a white man, you're an American, and like what we try and do with this show is talk about issues that most people find taboo or just difficult to talk about without getting emotional and angry. What is your analysis of what white people are facing, given everything we talked about, that that there's a move to try and breed them out of existence and so forth and so on? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and I'm more hard on white people than I am on any other race. I don't know, I've lost friends and family. I'm surrounded by self-hating liberals. I don't know, man. I think everything you can do is get right with God and, put all your marbles in that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the treating people different thing by their skin color. A lot of people do that in other ways too, like money. They'll, like in the industry, especially, people will hang out with somebody who's rich, right? And so they'll never disagree with them. They'll always want to kiss their ass. because they might get something from them, and it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, there's people that aren't in our circle that kind of understand where we're coming from, and yeah, I guess I'm just racist, but I'm just being honest and truthful with people. Well, not that racism exists, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So yeah.
Have you seen the documentary Europa: The Last Battle or The Greatest Story Never Told?
I've seen The Greatest Story Never Told. I don't think I've seen the Europa documentary.
It's similar. Pretty much covers the same time frame and information around the World War One and Two.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I mean, when I was taught the liberal history and education, I hated the Germans. You know what I mean? It was just self-hatred. And it's hard to, have any love when you hate yourself. And, I learned all that stuff about the concentration camps as a kid. And I don't know, I remember, like, when I was in a fallen state, I hated, World War II Germans. But, once you, start learning more about what actually went down, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I noticed, like, when I was a kid and I learned about that stuff, I saw, like, a movie, and I didn't realize, like, I think that schools want you to feel some kind of way about it. Like, they want to pound it into you where you feel sorry, you feel all these things, and I never really grasped that it was real or that it happened or that it didn't. I heard about it, but I didn't internalize it to where it affected my soul. I think a lot of people are doing that. They allow all these stories and things that happened in the past to affect them now and be like, oh my God, because of this, I have to treat you different now. And I think that's a setup.
Right. Yeah, in school, man, we had to watch Schindler's List. Are you guys familiar with that movie?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, it's not even real. It's just a work of fiction. And I also had to read, The Night by Wiesel. I mean, that dude, it's been pretty much proven that guy's a liar. I don't know, man. It's just weird what gets taught to us.
I mean, there's also, I don't know if you're familiar with one of the first guys that got me into, before I got into those two documentaries, Europa and The Greatest Story, Never Told, there's a Jewish academic, his name is Norman Finkelstein. He's not dead yet, but he was the first one.
Finkel is Einhorn.
Yeah, Einhorn is Finkel, but he wrote a book called The Holocaust Industry, and I didn't go into it trying to disprove World War II, the stories, but I was recommended it, and I read it, and he actually lost relatives in the war, but he was the first one to lay it out very logically, and he was criticizing. He said it was an industry in itself that they had used that as a money-making thing, and this is coming from a Jewish man who lost family, and so I was like, wow, that blew me away. I was like, this guy's not trying to be mean. He's just saying these people are abusing this story to make money off the backs of other people, and it just that led me down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, the Holocaust was the 70s. I mean, it's kind of a money-making thing, and you kind of think of I'm sure bad things happen to a lot of people during World War II, but, it was a war, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's just just interesting. As long as people just take it, be open to it. You don't gotta agree, but like I said, the first clue should be that if you feel very strongly emotional about a subject that you didn't live through, I think you've been brainwashed.
And even if you live through it, you can't hold on to it forever. You gotta overcome that,
Yeah, because you're blocking out any possible information that could edify you.
It's robbing you from the present moment. Anytime we carry the past or dread the future, we're being robbed, and that's what Satan does. He pulls us away from the present, brings us into our imagination, which isn't real, because Satan is a lie. So as soon as we go into our minds and our thoughts and our imagination and our feelings, they're not real. And although feelings feel like they're real because you're feeling them, your thoughts and imagination is what's triggering you to come into those feelings. Because if you notice, you can't feel anything until your thoughts tell you to. And there's these subconscious thoughts that we have that we don't even know we're having that are triggering us to feel certain ways. So we got to tap into knowing ourselves so we can uncover those subconscious things and get them away so we can be fully in the presence of God in the moment.
Yeah, I would agree, man. I went through a lot of different stages when I started to wake up. But yeah, man, I just kind of fell addicted into 80 groups of people. I mean, once I learned about, what the Muslims were doing in Europe, like, but I think God allowed me, to go through that because He knew that I would eventually overcome that. I don't need anybody else.
Right. You don't concern yourself with people's labels because of course they're gonna call you hateful and racist and anti-Semite and anti-Muslim and anti-gay, but that's just shut you down and not listen to you. If you were really hateful, you'd be screaming like they were. But that's why I don't need to get in a shouting match. But I'll talk with you about any subject. That's how you know who has real love. Let's sit down and talk.
Yeah, and I think when you sign up to be a follower of Christ, that's going to come along with it. You're going to be able instead of just a laugh or just not care about it. I don't care what people think. Whatever. All right,
Yeah.
well, I appreciate it, Charles. I'm going to get off there. I know you guys are all get off.
All right, man.
All right, bro,
Thank you,
take care,
Schmitty.
Take care, God bless.
Bye. All right, well, we'll wrap it up with that call. So, any closing statements? We're done with calls, folks. Sorry, but we'll catch up with all the other calls tomorrow night.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's simple. We can have conversations, talk about all kinds of stuff, what happened, what could happen, all these things. But at the end of the day, you can't go wrong. When you go sit by yourself, close your eyes, and realize that you get to know yourself and realize what pain you're running away from, so we can uncover that and find the forgiveness in our hearts to get rid of it. Because a lot of people think you got to constantly remind yourself and forgive all the time, and it's an endless forgiveness thing. But if you really go deep into the root and see that it was how you were raised, and that the world imposed an image onto you and created you a new identity for you, and then the real identity you have is buried away, and to uncover and get it back is through forgiveness. It's such a free thing to be zero. It's like the whole knowledge thing. When you think about taking a bite of the apple or the tree of knowledge or whatever, it's like they were zero, and then they bit an apple, and they all of a sudden they became one, and then infinity. All these numbers come, and you can endlessly have more knowledge. But at the end of the day, it's so much. Life is, what is the meaning of life? You ask that. What is the meaning of life? The meaning of life is to find peace, and to realize that the meaning of life is what we make it. So if we're negative, if we're angry, resentful, and intellectual, and I am a fan of education, but education has been perverted, and it's become indoctrination, and it's become feeding of the ego. So I think tapping into that wisdom, as opposed to trying to feed your brain with education, so that you can come from a place of feeding your identity, so that people will look at you and think that you're smart, or that so you could look better than other people. I think that's the wrong way, and that we should just uncover how we were raised and see the imperfections of it, and then forgive and go to those people and forgive them, so that you can get your identity back and live at zero and be free.
Yeah, in the end, I may be harsh for some people. They may take it as that guy's a little too rough with some of the way he says things, but it all comes from a place of love and humor, because I now nothing really is a big deal, and I don't care about topics or names. People can call me what they want. They can call me spick, they can call me cracker. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Words don't touch me. There's that distance now, and I encourage everybody, especially if you know Jesse, then you know his message. But if you don't, even if you do, check yourself and make sure you're aware that if you're feeling anything when you're talking about subjects, whether it's what really happened in World War II, or what didn't happen, or what's happening right now with George Floyd and all this stuff, if you feel something, you should slow down and let it pass, because that is a trap, and it is never useful. Never. You know, when there's chaos all around you, you don't want to be led by the guy who's being led by his feelings. You want that guy to be logical and cold and calculating. Just zero it in, like he said. No time for feelings. So just stay in tune with that and be open to stuff. And check out Europa: The Last Battle. You might be surprised. Optics.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for the super chats, and hopefully maybe we'll see you tomorrow, if God is willing and the creek still rise.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, and thanks for hanging out. Thank you all for all the super chats. God bless you, man. We will get microphones soon.
Pros and cons, pros and cons. The word blames dad when it's really your mom. Your mom.
Good night, everybody.